Chapter 2293. Vajrayana Starfield. Brahma Earth World deep in Mount Moran. A man, a woman, and a dog walked out of the void along with a roar. They were Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and Goldie. Finally back to the starry sky ancient path, Lin Sun took a deep breath. From all directions, the rolling spiritual energy gathered towards Lin Sun like a torrent. The peerlessly pure spirit energy here was sufficient to intoxicate cultivators below the Imperial Emperor realm, and it was utterly impossible to experience such a thing in the desolate and dried-up world of darkness. But for Lin Sun, this spiritual energy was not enough to satisfy his cultivation needs. The resources needed to cultivate in the Emperor realm were also astonishing, unless it was in the world's top mountains and blessed lands, such as the 6 Tao courts and the 10 war clans. Otherwise, ordinary places would not be able to satisfy the cultivation of Emperor realm. Just like this vast mountain range, it was also enshrouded in dense spiritual qi. But if Lin practiced here, he could exhaust all the spiritual qi here in less than 3 days. In short, treasures such as spiritual marrow, spiritual stones, and Taoist crystals were not suitable for the cultivation of Emperor realm. Only the great Tao origin crystals born from the primordial chaos were the cultivation resources that great emperors needed. Fortunately, Lin Sun did not lack all kinds of cultivation resources. Swish. Immediately, Lin Sun took out a map, looked at it for a moment and said, "Starting from the Buddhist Earth world, we have to cross 3 star areas and 39 worlds before we can reach the ferry to the mysterious ridge. This ferry is called Metaphysic, located on the bank of the cloud mist Milky Way." Goldie interrupted impatiently, "Why don't you just lead the way? Do you want me to tell you how to lead the way?" Lin Sun glanced at Xia Ji, who was also absent-minded. He felt helpless. Well, he could only rely on himself. "Lin Sun, I'm hungry," Xia Ji suddenly said. "Come on, let's get on the ship, and then I'll cook something delicious for you." Lin Sun took out the vast universe arc, rose into the air, and flew away. On the ship, Lin Sun was already prepared. He took some alien beast meat, various spiritual vegetables, and seasonings and began to cook. Big Yellow was dumbfounded, and it could not help but sneer. How did a top-notch emperor become a chef? Lin Sun didn't pay attention to this guy who couldn't utter decent language and concentrated on his work. Soon, a tempting aroma of meat filled the air. Golden and oily barbecue, steaming hot pot, fresh and delicious fruits and vegetables, rich and varied snacks and seasonings. Every single one of them could be said to have been carefully selected, and they'd gathered the rare treasures of the 4 seas and contained the delicacies of the various worlds. Goldie, who had been laughing at Lin Sun, was dumbfounded and drooled. Lin Sun's craftsmanship was not bad. Summer Solstice ate seriously and ignored Big Yellow's fiery gaze. Lin Sun couldn't bear to do that. He threw a huge bone in front of Goldie and said, "Eat it." "Yes, Bones." Big Yellow's blood rushed to its head. Its eyes burned with rage, and its body released a fearsome aura as if it was about to go berserk. Following that, in a flash, it came to the table, picked up a piece of barbecue and ate it fiercely. "Boy, I won't lower myself to your level. For the sake of this meal, I'll forgive you." "My God, what's this meat? It's so fresh and tender." It ate happily, its tail wagging non-stop. Summer Solstice looked up at Goldie and suddenly sped up the speed of eating. She ate and drank with both hands. Goldie didn't give in and ate heartily like a hungry dog. Lin Sun stared at this scene for a long time, and then rubbed his eyebrows. Goldie was not only domineering and arrogant, but also a rascal. He smiled, turned around and walked out of the cabin. Standing by the railing, he held the wine gourd and drank alone, his clothes fluttering in the sea of clouds and the flowing wind. Lin Sun suddenly remembered that the Brahma Earth world was the territory of the Kong family, an ancient imperial family. Solitary Sky Demon Emperor, Kong Lin, Kong Yu, Kong Zhao. Familiar names flashed through Lin Sun's mind. Speaking of which, The hatred between him and the Kong family could be said to be irreconcilable. Solitary Sky Demon Emperor was the leader of the 7 primordial demon emperors. In the Tao Battle of the Emperors in ancient times, senior brother Guyupu was restrained by Solitary Sky Demon Emperor and some other old monsters. In the end, he ended up dead. Lin Sun still remembered that when he met senior brother Guyupu at the foot of the God Lock Peak in Kunlun ruins, Guyupu was still full of guilt. He said that in the Tao Battle of the Emperors, because he didn't help in time, some of his junior brothers and sisters died. Thinking of this, Lin Sun raised his head and took a sip of wine. The Kong family. Even if it's not for my personal grudge, I can't let this go. Goldie, have you eaten the meat of the 5-colored peacock? He suddenly asked. In the cabin, Goldie, whose mouth was full of grease, shook his head. I've been staying in the dark world for countless years. How could I eat good food in such a remote place? Wait, that's not right. Speaking of this, he turned his head, looked at Lin Sun, and said suspiciously, Boy, you're not thinking of attacking the Kong family, are you? Lin Sun raised his thumb and praised, Goldie, you have a pair of dog eyes. You really have a pair of sharp eyes. How about going to the Kong family, an imperial family? Goldie was indifferent. He continued to eat and drink, and said vaguely with puffed cheeks, This is the territory of the Kong family, an imperial family. It's a primordial imperial family anyway. How can I go there casually? I advise you to keep a low profile. Otherwise, if you make a big trouble, I won't be able to explain to my master. Lin Sun was stunned. It was the first time he heard the word low profile from Goldie. Wasn't this guy always domineering? You really don't want to go? Lin Sun asked. No. Then don't regret it. Oh, what kind of dog am I that will regret it? Lin Sun said indifferently. Well, from today on, you can make whatever you want to eat. Xia Ji, let's go together. Xia Ji nodded, okay. Goldie was stunned and said angrily, Boy, do you really think I'm afraid of trouble? Isn't it for your own good? Given my temper, let alone the Kong family, it's nothing even if I go to the 6 Taoist courts. Haven't you heard that in the dark world, it's better to provoke the king of hell than Goldie? Look at those old things from the divine sunshine ancient sect and the hidden land realm. Which one of them dares not to fear me? Goldie sat up straight, and his face was full of arrogance. Lin Sun asked directly, Are you going or not? Goldie's face was cloudy and it said, Let's make this clear first. If my master blames me if I make a big trouble, I'll say that you forced me to do it. Lin Sun laughed, knowing that Goldie was worried about being scolded by his second senior brother. He said without hesitation, Don't worry, I won't let you be wronged. Goldie stretched out its leg and hit the table, and its eyes lit up. It said excitedly, Then what are we waiting for? Let's go to the Kong family. I won't hide it from you, I've been wanting to taste the 5-colored peacock meat for a long time. I heard that too. My master once killed an old peacock with one punch. That polearm of divine destruction plucked the old peacock's feathers and made a pot of meat soup. Even someone as proud as my master couldn't help but eat 2 big bowls of it. At the end, it drooled again. It's a pity I wasn't there, or I would have definitely tried it. Even now, when that polearm of divine destruction mentions that pot of meat soup, he misses it so much. You didn't think of eating the 5-colored peacock meat long ago, did you? Lin Sun looked at Goldie, who was talking non-stop, beaming with joy and excitement, and suddenly realized that he had been tricked. Goldie grinned and said, Of course. Who doesn't know that the Brahma Earth world is the territory of the Kong family? Do you know why we were moved here? It's because after my master killed that old peacock, he thought that if he wanted to taste the peacock meat again in the future, at least he wouldn't have to go through the trouble of traveling, and he could come here directly by teleportation. So, Lin Sun was stunned and said, So he left the coordinates of the starry sky shifting tunnel here. Exactly. Goldie laughed. Lin Sun put his hand on his forehead, speechless. Second senior brother was such a proud person, but he left the coordinates of the starry sky shifting tunnel in this tribulation for a pot of meat soup. Was he a foodie in his bones? Big Yellow sighed and said, "It's been countless years, and I've finally returned to the starry sky ancient path. I wonder, who in this world still remembers Battle Emperor Shao, who once dominated the universe and suppressed the world?" Battle Emperor Shao. The corners of Lin Sun's mouth twitched. This Taoist name was appropriate. Let's go, don't dawdle any more." The more Goldie said, the more impatient he became. His dog eyes were full of fire, as if Lin Sun had taken the responsibility for him, and he resumed his lawless and domineering manner. An hour later, in the distant sky, an old man in a Confucian robe was flying in the air with a girl. An old man and a girl, dressed in gorgeous clothes, stepped on shining flying swords, and their sleeves fluttered. At first glance, it was obvious that they were not ordinary practitioners. "Taoism Pier, please wait," Lin Sun said, and vast universe arc suddenly caught up with them. The old man in a Confucian robe frowned. He was a little displeased at first, but when he looked at Lin Sun, he was slightly stunned and immediately showed a kind smile. "What can I do for you?" The girl next to him looked at Lin Sun curiously with a pair of big watery eyes. Lin Sun said, "I can't give you advice. I just want to inquire about the way to the Imperial Kong family." The old man in a Confucian robe said with a smile, "What a coincidence! Are you also going to the Wisdom King sacrifice held by the Imperial Kong family?" Wisdom King sacrifice? Lin Sun was stunned, but he still nodded with a smile, kind of. "Then we can go together, but I don't know if you mind?" The old man in a Confucian robe smiled kindly with a hint of awe. Chapter 2294. The old man was called Gu Liangting. He came from the Gu Liang clan, one of the 7 ancient emperor clans of the Brahma Earth world. He was a third-stage quasi-emperor. In the absence of Emperor Realm experts, Gu Liangting's combat capability could be said to be at the peak of the world, and he had great majesty in the eyes of the world. But as soon as he boarded the vast universe arc, Gu Liangting's heart trembled and he gasped. "Grandpa, this big dog is eating really happily." The girl next to him pointed to Big Yellow, who was eating and drinking in the distance. Her voice was clear and sweet. Gu Liangting scolded, "Luoluo, don't be rude." Then, under the girl's widened eyes, Gu Liangting bowed respectfully to the big dog. Junior Gu Liangting pays respect to senior. Big Yellow spat out the bone in his mouth, squinted at Gu Liangting, and continued to wolf down his food. Such a small character obviously couldn't enter Big Yellow's eyes. Gu Liangting, however, didn't show any trace of annoyance. He still looked respectful, but when he inadvertently glanced at Xia Ji sitting opposite Big Yellow, he trembled all over and lowered his bowed figure even more. The girl Luoluo was dumbfounded when she saw this scene. The lively and naive girl suddenly became timid and didn't even dare to breathe. In her heart, her grandpa was already an extremely prestigious figure, and wherever he went, he would be surrounded by people like stars around the moon. But now it was completely reversed. The girl Luoluo immediately realized that the man, the woman, and the dog on this ship were all extremely experts. "Taoism Pier, don't stand on ceremony, please sit down first," Lin Sun said as he walked into the cabin. As he spoke, he took out some rare fruits and handed them to the girl, who had become very reserved. He smiled, "Little girl, try these fruits, they taste very good." Luoluo looked at Gu Liangting, who hurriedly said, "Luoluo, you can't refuse an elder's gift. Quickly salute and thank him." The girl Luoluo received the fruits with both hands, and then bowed her head obediently. "Thank you, elder brother." Big Yellow giggled. "This little girl is quite interesting." Gu Liangting glared at Luoluo. "Elder is elder, what elder brother?" Lin Sun interrupted with a smile, "It's just a title. Don't scare the girl." Only now did Gu Liangting heave a sigh of relief. Through these details, He knew that the young man before him with unfathomable strength wasn't someone that was difficult to get along with. Next, Lin Sun asked about the Wisdom King ceremony without hiding anything. Although Gu Liangting felt it was strange, he still told her everything he knew. The Emperor Kong clan was also known as the Wisdom King bloodline. It was rumored that their founder, the demonic Emperor Dutian, had a deep relationship with Buddhism before he attained the Tao and was given the title of Wisdom King Peacock. Every 1,000 years, the Imperial Kong clan would hold a Wisdom King ceremony. Firstly, it was to worship their ancestors, and secondly, it was to use this opportunity to select a prince from the clan. Gu Liangting said, the previous imperial prince was Kong Zhao, and he joined the primordial Tao court to cultivate. He possessed extraordinary talent and unparalleled resources, and he was viewed as a good seedling that had the highest chance of becoming an emperor. Who would have imagined that he would be killed by the successor of Mount Hart, Lin Sun, in the ancient immortal forbidden area a few years ago? There was a hint of emotion in his voice. The young girl, Luoluo, ate a spiritual fruit and said in a crisp voice, "It's Emperor Dao Yuan, the first peerless great emperor in the starry sky ancient path in the last 100,000 years." Her voice was filled with admiration, and her beautiful big eyes were shining. Gu Liangting was instantly embarrassed, and he hurriedly scolded, "How can you interrupt when the adults are talking?" Then he said to Lin Sun, "Please don't misunderstand, my granddaughter is young and ignorant. She has a big mouth." On the starry sky ancient path, Emperor Dao Yuan was a fearsome existence. Although he had caused a sensation in all heavens, no one dared to talk about him in front of strangers. They were afraid that the orthodoxies under Emperor Shi Tiandi would overhear them and cause unnecessary misunderstandings. "It's okay." Lin Sun smiled. "Speaking of Emperor Dao Yuan, the world's evaluation of him doesn't seem to be very good?" Gu Liangting hesitated for a moment and sighed. "In the final analysis, this Emperor Dao Yuan has killed too many people. Many ancient orthodoxies in the starry sky hate him and regard him as a scourge." He paused for a moment and continued. "But no one can deny that the Dao Yuan Emperor is a supreme legend indeed. His deeds have spread throughout the world a long time ago. Presently, numerous cultivators of the younger generation worship the Dao Yuan Emperor to the extreme." "Just like me," the young girl, Luoluo, interrupted. "In my heart, Emperor Dao Yuan is the first heavenly talent in all heavens. He is indisputable and unparalleled. No one in the world can compete with him." Lin Sun was stunned and couldn't help laughing. It was quite interesting to be talked about by others. Gu Liangting glared at Luoluo fiercely, as if blaming her for talking too much. The speed of vast universe arc was very fast. In just half a day, they had entered the territory covered by Mount Tianhui. Mount Tianhui was the first sacred mountain in the Brahma Earth world. It was regarded as a miracle by countless practitioners. This was also the place where the Imperial Kong clan was based. Before they arrived, they could already see many dazzling escape lights rushing in the direction of Mount Tianhui from all directions. Some were riding magic weapons, some were riding spiritual birds and flying beasts, and some were riding treasure ships just like Lin Sun. They were densely packed, and it was a spectacular sight. According to Gu Liangting, this time, the Imperial Kong clan was hosting the Wisdom King ritual. Not only did the major forces of the Brahma Earth world come with generous gifts, but even some ancient orthodoxies from the primordial world and other starry sky had come. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Imperial Kong clan was. "Let's part ways here." Outside Tianhui City, Lin Sun put away the vast universe arc and said goodbye to Gu Liangting and Luoluo. "Fellow Taoist, you don't have an invitation, so you can't go to the Wisdom King ritual. Why don't you come with me?" Gu Liangting couldn't help asking. "Forget it. It's enough for us to meet each other. If I really stay with you, I will bring you trouble." Lin Sun refused with a smile. Then, he disappeared with Xia Ji and Goldie. Trouble? Luoluo was startled and confused. Gu Liangting's expression changed. He realized that something was wrong. Could this group of people be looking for trouble with the Imperial Kong clan? If that was the case, they were too bold. Come, let's go and take a look. Gu Liangting grabbed Luoluo and hurried toward Tianhui Mountain in the distance. Tianhui Mountain was majestic and extraordinary. There were many mountain peaks scattered around it, all bathed in divine light and auspicious rain. The Wisdom King ritual, which attracted guests from all over, would be held at noon today. The location was in front of Tianhui Mountain. At this time, an ancient altar that was thousands of feet wide stood there. The area around it was already packed with people. All the big shots from the major forces were standing there. Ordinary people couldn't even get close to it. Even if it was a famous and powerful person, without an invitation from the Imperial Kong clan, they couldn't even think about taking a step into this area. Look, that's one of the primordial Dao Court's Grand Elders, War Emperor Xue Xing. Amethyst Mountain's Qilong Sword Emperor is also here. Look over there. The Kuan clan and Su clan, which are also far ancient imperial clans, have also sent their martial emperors to attend the ritual. There were sounds of discussion everywhere. Many people's faces were filled with surprise. The Imperial Kong clan was too grand. This was a grand event to worship the ancestors and select the emperor's disciple, but it was so grand. There were even many martial emperors present. This could be considered a grand event even in the heavenly plains. The sacrificial altar that covered an area of 3 kilometers had long since been piled up with all sorts of precious treasures, and it was a dazzling lineup that flowed with the glow of treasures. All of those were the precious gifts given by the spectators, and every single one of them was of shocking value, causing them to pile into a small hill. At the front of the altar stood a group of big shots from the Imperial Kong clan, and a young man who was in high spirits. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and his appearance was outstanding. Seeing this grand scene, the young man couldn't help but smile proudly. His name was Kong Xian, and he'd been determined to be the new emperor. A black-haired man in violet robes stood by Kong Xian's side. He had a dignified bearing and emanated a supreme, imposing aura. He was the 7th elder of the Imperial Kong clan, the Searing Snow Sword Emperor. He would personally preside over the Wisdom King ritual this time. At this moment, even though he had a reserved expression, the pride in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Kong Xian, do you see this? This is the influence of our Imperial Kong clan. All the powers in the heavenly planes that have a good relationship with our Imperial Kong clan have sent people to attend the ritual. The Searing Snow Sword Emperor spoke slowly. Kong Xian was extremely excited in his heart. It was the first time he'd experienced such a grand event, and he felt especially honored and proud. However, you have to remember how the previous imperial disciple, Kong Zhao, died. The Searing Snow Sword Emperor's voice suddenly became low and icy cold. So long as Lin Daoyuan doesn't die, he'll be a great calamity to our Imperial Kong clan. We can't forget this enmity. Kong Xian's pupils constricted while the joy in his heart was replaced by a strand of heavy pressure. Lin Daoyuan, the renowned Dao Yuan Emperor. How could Kong Xian not know? Suddenly, someone asked, Brother Searing Snow, speaking of Lin Daoyuan, he has a deep hatred with your Imperial Kong clan. Now, the world doesn't know whether he's dead or alive. Brother Searing Snow, do you think he'll come to make trouble if he's still alive? His words attracted the attention of other big shots nearby, and they all looked at the Searing Snow Sword Emperor. Nowadays, Lin Sun, the Daoyuan Emperor, was the hottest topic on the starry ancient path. No matter where he went, he could be heard talking about him. The Searing Snow Sword Emperor frowned and then said proudly, If the remnant of Mount Heart is really alive, our Imperial Kong clan will never spare him. After a pause, he put his hands behind his back and glanced at the audience. His tone became more and more indifferent. I wish he dares to appear here, but the key is, does he dare? His voice was full of arrogance. This was the Brahma Earth world, the territory of the Imperial Kong clan. Which emperor in this world dared to come here and make trouble? They must be tired of living. Chapter 2295. Would he dare? Would he dare? The burning snow sword emperor's voice reverberated endlessly, causing the clamorous atmosphere to fall into silence. Then, a burst of laughter rang out. That was clearly impossible. Up until now, the fate of the Dao Yuan Emperor Lin Sun was still unknown. Even if he was alive, would he dare to come to the Kong family's territory and provoke them? Who didn't know that the Brahma Earth Great World was ruled by the Imperial Kong family? The Imperial Kong family was the strongest of the 7 great demon clans. It was so powerful that it could affect the entire Vajrayana starfield. Not to mention ordinary cultivators, even the Imperial Emperors wouldn't dare to behave atrociously in the Imperial Kong family's territory. The searing snow sword emperor smiled as well, and he said, "Everyone, don't worry. If the remnant evil of Mount Heart really dares to come, then my Imperial clan Kong clan will eradicate this evil creature for the sake of the starry sky and return peace to the world." His words were spoken domineeringly. However, at that moment a calm voice suddenly rang out, "Big Yellow, do you see that? If I, Lin, hadn't come this time, how would I have known that even the Imperial clan, the Kong clan, would dare to clamor about eliminating me?" As the voice rang out, a boundlessly terrifying emperors might suddenly spread out in this world, causing the void to tremble and the rocks and vegetation to shake. And before the voice finished, a wave of panicked and terrified voices came from far away. The densely packed crowd seemed to have been hit by a flood, and a path was forcefully created. On both sides of the path were cultivators rolling on the ground. Regardless of their cultivation, they were all rolling on the ground like gourds at this moment. Screams of terror rang out. Rumble! The entire area was trembling. The Emperor's might was released, suppressing everyone to the point of suffocation. All of their expressions changed. The originally bustling atmosphere was completely shattered. Suddenly encountering such an unexpected event before the 3 kilometers tall sacrificial altar caused the Sword Emperor Burns now and all the other great figures to be slightly taken by surprise, and they were extremely astounded. This was the Wisdom King sacrificial that the Imperial Kong family held once every 1,000 years. And it was in front of Mount Tianhui, the Imperial Kong family's territory. There was actually someone in this world who dared to come and cause trouble? No one had expected this. Lin, could it be that fellow? An old monster was the first to react, and his expression changed. At this moment, when everyone recalled the contents of that voice, their hearts twitched violently, and they revealed expressions of disbelief. Dao Yuan Emperor Lin Sun? For a time, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. However, Sword Emperor Burning Snow's expression was gloomy as he took a deep breath and said, "Who are you? Who gave you the courage to come cause trouble in my Imperial clan's Kong clan? Are you tired of living?" His voice was like a clap of thunder, rumbling in all directions. Boundless Emperor realm pressure spread out, spreading far and wide. All the cultivators in the vicinity instinctively moved far away. Even if they didn't dare confirm the identity of this person, none of them wanted to be affected by it. Right at this moment, everyone finally saw the auspicious rain and multicolored light flowing in the void extremely far away, and it transformed into a perfectly straight divine rainbow of the great Tao that shot through the sky. On the divine rainbow of the great path, a man, a woman, and a dog walked through the void toward them. The man was dressed in a moon-white robe, and his black hair hung loosely over his shoulders. His every move was indifferent and otherworldly, but as he walked, the invisible Emperor realm pressure spread out, causing the world to shake and the great Tao to cry. At the first sight of this man, the young girl Luoluo, who was standing in the crowd in the distance, opened her mouth and was about to exclaim, but her mouth was tightly covered by Gu Liangting, who was next to her. Gu Liangting's expression changed greatly, and his heart was shaken. He finally understood what Lin Sun meant when he said he wouldn't cause trouble for him. At this moment, when they saw the man in the lead, all the big shots in the field were stunned and confused. Who was this guy? Don't you recognize me? As he spoke, the man's body flowed with radiance, and his originally ordinary appearance instantly became handsome and handsome. His black eyes were deep, and his entire body emanated a great imposing aura that seemed as if it could swallow the universe and look down upon the world. It's him, Daoyuan Emperor Lin Sun. Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise. Immediately after, the whole field was in an uproar. Everyone seemed to see a legend, and their faces were full of disbelief. Even Burning Snow Sword Emperor and the other big shots were dumbfounded at this moment, and they almost suspected that there was something wrong with their eyes. The scene became deathly silent for a moment. A person who was thought to be impossible to appear here had miraculously appeared in front of them. The shock and impact made everyone present feel like they were dreaming. It should be known that it was less than half a month since the end of Nirvana Ishvara. Almost everyone on the ancient starry sky knew that although Lin Sun, who had become an emperor, could be called an unparalleled legend, his life and death were unknown after all. Even many people had seriously suspected that he had already died in Nirvana Ishvara. It should be known that Burning Snow Sword Emperor had proclaimed with great confidence that even if Lin Sun was alive, he would never dare to act wildly in the territory of the Imperial Kong clan. He even said with great domineeringness that even if Lin Sun really came, he would definitely eliminate him and return peace to the world. But now Lin Sun had come. This legendary Supreme Emperor had appeared in their field of vision alive, and he had come to the front of the Tianhui Mountain of the Imperial Kong clan alive. This was like a resounding slap on Burning Snow Sword Emperor's face, and it didn't even last overnight. After a short silence, the atmosphere in the scene was stirred. Countless cultivators with curiosity, shock, and doubt fell on Lin Sun in unison. What did the Supreme Emperor Lin Daoyuan want to do here? Did he really intend to seek revenge on the Imperial Kong clan? Grandpa, so he is! The young girl Luoluo was overjoyed, and her eyes were shining with excitement. But before she finished speaking, her mouth was covered by Gu Liangting. Gu Liangting was dumbfounded. His scalp was numb, and his heart was in turmoil. How could he have imagined that a random young man he met on the road was the Daoyuan Emperor who had already shocked the starry sky? I didn't expect that you're actually still alive. Burning Snow Sword Emperor came back to his senses, and his face was livid with disbelief. So, you've come for revenge? This was really absurd. A young man who was hated by the Imperial Kong clan didn't wait for them to seek revenge, but came to them on his own initiative. Lin Sun flicked his fingers and said indifferently, "That's unnecessary nonsense. Besides revenge, what else does the Imperial Kong clan have that's worth me coming here personally?" Beside him, Goldie added, "Meat." It was a single word, but it made Big Yellow think of a tempting scene. He stared at Burning Snow Sword Emperor with a gloomy gaze, and saliva flowed from his mouth. No matter how strange the scene was, it still made everyone's heart tremble. He really came to seek revenge. However, this Daoyuan Emperor was too daring. This was the territory of the Imperial Kong clan. He was a Supreme Emperor. Did he really think that killing some emperors would be able to shake a primordial imperial clan with an incomparably ancient foundation? Although it was hard to believe, everyone present still subconsciously moved a distance away, for fear that they would be affected if a battle broke out. Even some of the great forces that were on good terms with the Imperial Kong clan chose to retreat at this moment. The Imperial Kong clan dared to provoke the great emperor who had already shaken the heavens, but they dared not. Witnessing this scene, Burning Snow Sword Emperor's expression became more and more livid. He stared at Lin Sun and said with a fake smile, "You came at the right time. Today is the Wisdom King's sacrificial ceremony of my clan. After killing you, your flesh and soul will come to Hong as a sacrifice. Is that so? Lin Sun said casually. Big Yellow, I'll leave those above the 6th level to you, and those below the 6th level to me and Xia Ji. How about that? Big Yellow grinned, revealing his snow-white teeth, and said, Boy, I like what you said. Ordinary Emperor Realm experts really can't enter this seat's discerning eyes. Everyone couldn't help but look askance. Who was this dog? His tone was even more arrogant than the imperial ancestor. Too much nonsense. Let's finish this quickly. Xia Ji, who had not spoken all this while, seemed to be a little impatient. She carried the white bone spear and suddenly stepped into the air, just like a dark flowing light. Everyone was astonished. Who was this person? He directly made a move? Burning Snow Sword Emperor suddenly flicked his sleeve, and an Emperor's sword charged out. It gave rise to a sharp light that tore through the sky and slashed down towards Xia Ji. Bang! Peerless Emperor's aura swept out and shattered the clouds in all directions. At this moment, all the cultivators present here didn't hesitate to flee once more. They retreated far away, and not a single one of them dared to hesitate. This was a battle between emperors, and the scope of its effects was too large. It could easily incinerate mountains, boil seas, destroy a city, and cause the sun, moon, and stars to tremble. Not to mention resisting it, ordinary cultivators would even suffer annihilation if they were slightly touched by the murderous aura of the Emperor Realm. However, Xia Ji didn't even spare it a glance. She waved the white bone spear and smashed the sword chi with a bang, and then her figure flashed to arrive before Burning Snow Sword Emperor. She waved her spear. Bang! The Emperor's sword in Burning Snow Sword Emperor's hand was slashed into two, and his entire body was pierced through the chest by the spear. Blood sprayed out like a waterfall. Such an old monster with a cultivation of the 3rd level Emperor Realm, whose name shook the Brahma Earth Great World, was killed by a single spear strike like a chicken or a dog. Such a bloody and shocking scene struck many people like they were struck by lightning, and their souls almost jumped out of their bodies. Previously, everyone's attention was on Lin Sun. No one had expected that this woman in a black robe with a graceful figure and a hood would have such terrifying battle prowess. Don't break it. The taste of the intact 5-color peacock meat is even better. Big Yellow's anxious warning sounded from afar, but the content of the warning left everyone dumbfounded. She killed Burning Snow Sword Emperor just to eat meat? It was too terrifying. Some of the great figures' faces turned green. Kill. Quickly go and invite the supreme elders of the clan. At this moment, several great figures of the Emperor Kong clan near the altar moved, and they let out furious roars. Everyone, the remnants of Fangtsuan Mountain that are wanted by Emperor Shi Tiandi have appeared. Please join me and help the fellow Taoists of the Kong clan in battle. The voice of Xue Xing War Emperor from the antiquity Dao Court resounded through the sky. Chapter 2296. The words of the Xue Xing battle arch almost made the faces of the big shots, who were originally planning to retreat, turn green. They were only here to watch the ceremony. Even if they had a good relationship with the imperial clan, their enemy this time was a ferocious great Emperor Juing, a ruthless man who had slaughtered countless martial emperors in the nirvana of freedom. He was able to walk out of the nirvana of freedom alive after being attacked by a group of 5th and 6th level martial emperors. Who would dare to offend such an existence? Furthermore, he wasn't alone. The black-robed woman and the ferocious Big Yellow were not simple characters. However, Battle Emperor Xue Xing had used the banner of Heavenly Monarch Shi to suppress them. In addition, they were under the watchful eyes of the crowd. If they were to retreat just like that, they would definitely offend the Emperor clan, the Kong clan. As such, although they wanted to curse the Kong clan's mothers in their hearts, no one dared to take the lead and retreat. Someone had an idea and quickly transmitted his voice. Taoist Lin, I don't want to be your enemy. If we really fight later, please show mercy. I promise I won't really fight against you. Lin Sun had a strange look in his eyes, but he still nodded slightly. This caused the man to feel as if a great burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He was wild with joy, but his expression was filled with a murderous aura. Of course, it was only for show. In reality, this person did not know that at this moment, more than a dozen big shots from different forces were transmitting their voices to Lin Sun, begging for mercy in a humble and helpless tone. It was obvious that these big shots, who were on good terms with the Imperial clan, were not reliable in a real battle. Kill! In the blink of an eye, the battle had erupted a long time ago. The great figures of the Kong clan were the most ferocious, and they attacked furiously. Imperial might emanated from their entire bodies, and they were like numerous erupting volcanoes that caused this expanse of the heavens and the earth to fall into unrest. Battle Emperor Xue Xing from the primitive Dao court also made his move. He waved a long spear that was as bright as silver, pointing at the sky and hitting the ground. He was a fourth-level martial emperor and knew his limits, so he rushed towards Xie. Lin Sun was a peak great emperor and had killed many fourth-level martial emperors. Big Yellow was a dog, but his arrogant attitude made Lin Sun think that he could fight against a sixth-level martial emperor. He was not to be trifled with. Therefore, the Xue Xing battle emperor made his move against Xie. To put it simply, he had no intention of putting his life on the line for the Emperor clan Kong clan. The reason why he ordered the heroes to attack together with him was because he believed that this was the territory of the Emperor clan Kong clan. Although Lin Sun and the others were strong, they weren't strong enough to shake an ancient Emperor clan. Big Yellow cast a sidelong glance and crouched in the void without moving. It thought that it would be too embarrassing if it got involved in such a small matter. Kill! Someone rushed towards Lin Sun. It was a big shot from another force. He was aggressive and full of thunder and lightning. It's the Amethyst Mountain's Qi Long Sword Emperor. I didn't expect him to be so brave as to directly attack the Dao Yuan Emperor. Someone cried out in shock, attracting the attention of countless people. All of them were shocked by the Qi Long Sword Emperor's elegance. But who would have thought that as soon as Lin Sun waved his hand, the mighty Qi Long Sword Emperor staggered back thousands of meters before everyone could see it clearly. His face was pale and he coughed up blood. He uttered an unwilling and bitter voice. The Dao Yuan Emperor is indeed worthy of being the first great emperor in the last 100,000 years. I'm no match for him. Fellow Taoists of the Emperor clan Kong clan, it's not that I don't want to fight, but I'm seriously injured. Farewell. Before his voice died away, the Qi Long Sword Emperor teleported away in the void. He escaped faster than anyone else. He didn't look like a seriously injured person at all. Everyone was dumbfounded and their hearts trembled. Was the Dao Yuan Emperor really so strong? The corner of Lin Sun's mouth twitched. This guy was a drama queen. He hadn't even released his attack just now. The big shots who had the same thoughts as the Qi Long Sword Emperor looked at the place where the Qi Long Sword Emperor left with envy. Then, they looked at Lin Sun with fiery eyes. Their eyes seemed to say, "Fellow Taoist, please cooperate with us and help us escape from the sea of suffering." Lin Sun found it funny, but he didn't refuse. So, in the following time, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the big shots of the Emperor realm who rushed to deal with Lin Sun either flew backward with blood spurting out of their mouths and noses, or cried out in pain and staggered back, or those scenes were just like real. In fact, who would dare to believe that the big shots of the Emperor realm would resort to such shameless trickery in order not to get involved? A bunch of drama queens. This was Big Yellow's evaluation. What kind of existence was he? He could see through those little tricks at a glance. His dog face was full of disdain. He sighed in his heart that the Emperor realm nowadays was really becoming more and more unsightly. Boom! At the same time, with Xie expedition, the big shots of the Emperor clan Kong clan who besieged her were killed without hesitation. She seemed to remember Big Yellow's reminder. When she killed her opponents, she almost always kept their bodies intact. Every time she killed one, she would casually collect it like harvesting crop. While harvesting, she put it into a bag. Bang! She waved her spear, and the remaining Shu Xing War Emperor was shaken and staggered back. His arm was almost blown up, and the pain was unbearable. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought that he had chosen an opponent who could be resisted. Who would have thought that this black-robed woman's combat power was so strong? Damn Emperor Clan Kong Clan, why haven't those old things come out yet? Do they really want to see me killed before they show up? At this moment, Shu Xing War Emperor also regretted his impulsiveness. He shouldn't have stood up so early. Bang! Soon, he was hit by a spear again. His chest collapsed and his eyes darkened. He almost fell out of the void. Seeing that he was about to be killed by Xia Ji, a loud shout came from Mount Tianhui in the distance. How dare you, a little evil of Mount Mind, come to my Kong clan and make trouble? You're courting death. The voice shook the world, revealing endless majesty. Faster than the voice, a purple flying knife, dazzling and boundless, like a streamer shooting from the universe, cut through the void and chopped at Xia Ji at an incredible speed. Lin Sun's black eyes narrowed slightly. This kind of power made him feel danger. There was no doubt that the old monster who attacked must be a terrifying existence above the 6th level of Emperor Realm. At the same time, Yellow, who had been squatting there, moved. He disappeared in an instant and appeared in front of Xia Ji, slapping her with his paw. Bang! The dazzling purple flying knife, like a fly being swatted, buzzed and flew out, shaking incessantly. Everyone was stunned. This big yellow dog was so fierce. It was also at this moment that people saw from Mount Tianhui, one after another, majestic figures suffused with the terrifying light of Emperor Realm. With their appearance, the world trembled, all things rustled, and the sun and moon lost their light. It felt as if one god after another had come out of the legends and descended to the world. At this time, in the area near Mount Tianhui, except for Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and Yellow, there was no one else. The practitioners who came to watch the ceremony had all hidden far away. The world was silent, and all eyes were fixed on the sky above Mount Tianhui. There were more than 10 old fogies from the Imperial Kong clan. War Emperor Xue Xing was also relieved, and he felt lucky as if he had escaped from death. But at this moment, a dazzling spear shadow suddenly appeared, illusory and blurred. Puff! In the eyes of everyone, War Emperor Xue Xing, a 4th-level Emperor Realm Elder of the Primitive Path, had his throat pierced with a single strike. Then, his body exploded into pieces. This extremely bloody scene was like the most direct and violent provocation, and it caused all the old monsters of the Kong clan who walked out of Mount Tianhui to be furious. Rumble! The will on their bodies spread like a landslide and a tsunami, covering and enveloping the area. The boundless killing intent caused the mountains and rivers in all directions to tremble and shake. Shut up! Suddenly, among the old monsters from the Imperial Kong clan, a white-haired old man with a sage-like appearance shouted in exasperation. Crack! But Yellow had caught the purple flying knife in his mouth, and he bit it with his ghastly white teeth. The purple flying knife was directly bitten into several pieces. Puff! The white-haired old monster spat out blood. The purple flying knife was his life imperial weapon, and he was also affected by the destruction of his imperial weapon. Everyone was shocked. This big dog was too ferocious. Its teeth were sharp and could easily bite through imperial weapons. Lin Sun gasped. He dared not imagine how miserable it would be if he was bitten by Yellow. Crack! Crack! While chewing the pieces of the purple flying knife, Yellow said disdainfully, 2 7th-level Emperor Realm, 1 8th-level Emperor Realm, 5 6th-level Emperor Realm, and the rest are all below the 6th-level Emperor Realm. How dare you come out to embarrass yourself with such little strength? His voice resounded through the sky, full of incomparable contempt. This almost drove the people watching from afar crazy. Who would have thought that a dog would dare to look down on the Kong clan's old ancestor? You're courting death. Hurry up and kill this evil beast. Don't let any of them escape. The dozen or so Emperor Realm experts of the Kong clan were livid with anger, and their killing intent surged. One by one, they took out their Emperor weapons and charged towards Lin Sun and the others. I'll deal with those old bastards, you deal with the others. As he spoke, Yellow's figure also rushed out, releasing a monstrous and terrifying Emperor Realm aura. He was obviously a dog, but he gave people the feeling of a supreme Emperor Realm descending to the world, with boundless power. Boom! He waved his paws, and the law of great ways intertwined into rolling thunderbolts. Like divine chains of order, they rumbled and spread out. In a flash, they blocked the 8 and the 2 7th-level Emperor Realm old monsters and suppressed them. Xia Ji, finish this quickly, Lin Sun said quickly. At this moment, Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep and surging with the flames of battle. The imposing aura around his body changed abruptly, and it connected with the heavens and the earth. His entire body glowed dazzlingly while an endless rain of light poured down, causing the heavens and the earth to dim. The experts watching this scene in the dark were all frightened, their scalps tingling, and their faces changed completely. Was this the demeanor of great Emperor Ju-in? Chapter 2297. Boom. Summer Solstice was the first to attack. Her attack was simple and direct. Like the shadow of the eternal night, her battle spear was as white as snow. Her aura wasn't shocking, but it was unstoppable. Her movements were swift and fierce, and in the blink of an eye, she was engaged in an intense battle with several emperors. At the same time, Lin Sun launched an attack. Whoosh! The broken blade swept out and set off an unparalleled divine radiance that resembled a galaxy. With just one strike, an old monster of the 5th level of the Emperor Realm staggered backwards. Hurry, let's suppress this child together. The old monster roared. Immediately, 7 or 8 emperors rushed over, all of them brimming with murderous intent. The aura they exuded was enough to crush the sky. Lin Sun's figure flashed, and the 5 Tao forms whizzed out, each holding the lifeless seal, the lawless saber, the directionless flag, the gourd of origin, and the starry sky map. Among them, the gourd of origin and the starry sky 1000 phenomenon diagram were taken from the Dark Child. They could be said to be miraculous ancient treasures among Emperor weapons, and they were extremely powerful. While Lin Sun was manipulating the broken blade, he also released the Tower of Endless Tao and swept across the field. If they were not Lin's enemies, they could never imagine how horrible this scene was. A peerless great emperor, surrounded by 5 great path forms and wielding all kinds of unbelievably terrifying imperial weapons, swept through the battlefield. In an instant, the light from the treasures was like a tide, and the sound of the Tao was like thunder, drowning the entire area. Dang! A green copper bell that was intertwined with the laws of Emperor Tao flashed over, yet it was blasted flying by the lifeless seal. It buzzed and trembled violently, and many markings appeared on the surface of the copper bell. The one controlling the green bell was an old monster of the 5th-level Emperor realm. He looked like a young man and was extremely powerful. He retreated without hesitation. But at this moment, the Scarlet Fire Taoist body charged at him with his blade, making it impossible for him to dodge. He could only face it head-on. A green sun-like light wheel appeared in front of him. Puff! There was a flash of saber light, and the green wheel was completely ignored by the lawless saber. The old monster's head was sliced off by the saber aura. Swish! Fresh blood sprayed as his body and head were instantly crushed into powder and drowned by the surging torrent of saber chi. In the blink of an eye, he was at the 5th tier of the Emperor Slayer realm. This scene caused the eyes of those old fellows from the imperial ancestor Kong clan to almost split apart with rage, and all of them simply seemed as if they'd gone mad. But this was not the end. At the same time, on another battlefield, Xia Zi's spear tore through the defenses of a fourth-level Emperor Realm cultivator like a hot knife through butter. His body was torn into pieces and exploded in the void. Far away, those who witnessed the bloody scene and saw the fourth and fifth-level Emperor Realm old monsters of the Kong clan being killed by Lin Sun and Xia Zi caused chills to run down their spines. Too strong. No words could describe such an unparalleled slaughter. How supreme and extraordinary were Emperor Realm figures. They looked down upon the world and looked down upon all. But now they were falling like rain. First, Burning Snow Sword Emperor, Xue Xing Battle Emperor and the others were killed. Now, a fourth and fifth level Emperor were killed as well. This was undoubtedly too terrifying. After all, who had ever seen emperors fall in the past? One might not even see it once in a million years, but the bloody scene of emperors' fall was playing out incessantly in front of Mount Tianhui of the imperial ancestor Kong clan. The heavens and the earth shook, and the restrictions on Mount Tianhui roiled before they were able to disperse the terrifying aftershock of the battle. On the other hand, the heavens and the earth were collapsing, all things were being crushed into powder, and space was falling into disorder. Some cultivators below the imperial ancestor realm couldn't see what was really going on, or perhaps they'd been horrified to the point of trembling and their knees going weak. If they hadn't hidden extremely far away, then the consequences would absolutely be unimaginably severe. Awu! A thunderous roar resounded in the sky. It was like the roar of a dragon or the roar of a tiger, and it resounded through the heavens and the earth. It shook everyone to the point their heads felt like they were on the verge of exploding. Big Yellow charged into the sky while his fur emanated a myriad of rays of light. He was like an exalt amongst beasts, and his hooves tore through space in an extremely violent manner. As he charged, the terrifying scene of the sun sinking and the moon setting appeared in the sky, and it seemed like the heavens were collapsing. Peerless light of the Tao completely enveloped the area. The two 7th and 8th level imperial ancestors of the imperial ancestor Kong clan possessed terrifying might, and a casual attack from them could throw the world into chaos and split yin and yang. But now, they were firmly suppressed by Big Yellow. This shocked and infuriated them. They didn't dare believe that such a ferocious and terrifying Big Yellow could exist in the world. He was simply heaven-defying. If I didn't want to stew all of you in one piece, I would have killed all of you a long time ago. Big Yellow's voice rumbled, and it was filled with contempt and disdain. It had a kind of conceit, as if it was the most supreme being in the world. That kind of domineering, arrogant, and wild attitude appeared on the body of a dog, and it gave people a feeling that it was especially shocking. The three ancestors of the imperial ancestor Kong clan flew into a rage out of humiliation. They felt as if their pride had been trampled on, and their killing intent shot into the sky as if they'd gone mad. Rumble! The battle in the sky became even more intense, and it was a chaotic and turbulent scene. Not to mention ordinary people, even ordinary Emperor Realm cultivators couldn't see what was happening in the sky. The battle was simply too supreme and unparalleled. At the same time, Xia Zi was fighting with two 5th level Emperor Realm and one 6th level Emperor Realm Old Monster. Although she was surrounded, she wasn't suppressed. Her spear swept horizontally through the battlefield while her entire body was coiled with a rain of laws that seemed like eternal darkness. Every single move she made was extremely simple, yet it carried peerless murderous might, and it caused space to wail and tremble. On the other side, Lin Sun was besieged by a total of 8 old monsters. Compared to Xia Zi, Lin Sun was undoubtedly a greater threat. His main body and his 5 doppelgangers were attacking together, and each of them wielded an incomparably mystical emperor weapon. Their combat strength was shocking, and their killing intent was overwhelming. It was a scene rarely seen in tens of thousands of years. If it were any other Emperor Realm cultivator, they would have been easily killed by the old monsters of the imperial ancestor Kong clan. The power of the 8 Emperor Realm ancestors was too terrifying. Many sects wouldn't be able to gather 8 Emperor realm leaders. Only a primordial Emperor clan like the Kong clan would be able to dispatch so many old monsters with frightening foundations at once. Facing such a siege, there was no sadness or joy in Lin Sun's eyes. His broken blade was like lightning, mist, and illusion. It flickered on the battlefield with astonishing killing intent. The Tower of Endless Tao was even more terrifying. Every time it pressed down, a magnificent rain of light would flow, and it had the power to destroy the 9 heavens and suppress 3,000 worlds. It seemed indestructible, and there was nothing it couldn't break. Any power in front of it would be crushed and blown away. Lin Sun himself was developing his own Tao and laws. Open. As he took a deep breath, a great abyss appeared around him, and the Emperor Tao rumbled, as if it could shatter all things in the world. Whoosh! Sword Tao, 9 inches eternal destruction. This sword slashed out, mountains and rivers shattered, and the sun and moon turned upside down. It was like a koan pung attacking 3,000 worlds, and the Milky Way rolling back and shattering the void. The combined attack of the 8 old monsters was instantly broken by this sword. They retreated dozens of feet as if they were struck by lightning. Then, the sword chi was unstoppable, and it slashed down in front of a 6th-level Emperor realm old monster. The old monster roared, took out his Emperor weapon, and hurriedly dodged. Clang! The sword was blocked. But before the old monster could heave a sigh of relief, the lifeless seal, the directionless flag, and the Tower of Endless Tao attacked from different directions. No! He screamed in terror and despair. The next moment, he was killed and his body exploded. Even his spiritual soul was crushed. When he was in nirvana of freedom, Lin Sun could fight against a group of 5th-level and 6th-level Emperor realm old monsters with his own strength without the use of Emperor weapons. But now, he attacked with the support of many Emperor weapons. The power was naturally not something that could be compared to when he was barehanded. A single sword had shaken the 8 old monsters. 6th-level Emperor Slayer realm. This kind of earth-shattering power directly shocked everyone silly. The second one. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep as he spoke indifferently. Then, he took a step forward in the air. His main body and his 5 doppelgangers moved together, like a peerless, sharp awl that could crush anything in its path. The remaining 7 old monsters of the Kong clan were a little scared, but they still fought back. This was the lair of the Kong clan, the place where their clan lived and thrived. They had no choice but to fight with their lives on the line. 8 Wilderness True Self Sword Principle. Wind and Thunder Warhammer. Yin and Yang Great Sky Seal. Divine arts, Taoist arts, and Emperor weapons came from all directions and bombarded Lin Sun. But Lin Sun did not rely on brute force. His figure flickered, his main body and his 5 doppelgangers fought together, and sometimes they split up to attract the enemy's power. They came and went in an unpredictable manner. In the midst of the battle, Lin Sun's main body had already appeared in front of a 5th-level Emperor realm old monster. It was a graceful, beautiful, and cold woman. When she sensed Lin Sun's appearance, she had no time to manipulate the Emperor weapon she had just taken out. She formed a seal with both hands and struck at Lin Sun. Emperor's True Scripture, Red Sun Burning Seal. The third one. Lin Sun did not care. He did not dodge and punched down from the sky. Bang! The red seal exploded in an instant. The surging fist energy was like a dragon returning to the abyss, unstoppable. In an instant, all defenses and treasures were broken, and the beautiful woman was crushed into a bloody mist from head to toe. Not a single piece of her body could be found. As for the protective law, it was like a piece of paper in front of this fist. At this moment, the other 6 emperors were not only terrified, but also felt like they had fallen into an ice cave. Only when they fought Lin Sun, a peak great emperor, head-on, would they understand how terrifying he was. Lin Sun could easily break their attacks and kill the emperor as if he was killing a chicken. This meant that Lin Sun's strength was far above theirs. Even if he was only at the first level of the Emperor realm, his real combat strength had reached an incredible level. Most terrifying of all, the treasures he possessed were also heaven-defying, which increased his overall combat strength by a large margin. Even a lawless existence like the 6th-level Emperor realm would suffer a fatal blow when facing Lin Sun. At this moment, they looked at the mighty yellow in the sky, and Xia Ji, who was fighting against several Emperor realm old monsters not far away. And then they looked at the invincible Lin Sun. Even the cultivators that were watching this scene from extremely far away couldn't help but feel terrified and coldness surge into their hearts. Chapter 2298. A man, a woman, and a dog stood in front of Mount Tianhui, fighting until the sky darkened and blood flowed like a river. This was supposed to be the Wisdom King ceremony that was held once every 1,000 years by the imperial Kong family. It was supposed to be a grand occasion where guests from all over gathered. But now it was a scene of bloody destruction like purgatory. This was something that no one had expected. After all, the Kong family was a famed far ancient imperial clan. It was so powerful that it could stand shoulder to shoulder with the 6 great Dao courts. The power of such a great clan was enough to make the emperors fear and respect them. They dared not offend them easily. But today, Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and Goldie had come directly to the Kong family's mountain gate and set off a bloody storm. What was most inconceivable was that, in the current situation, the Imperial Kong clan was actually showing signs of being suppressed. Ordinary cultivators aside, even the emperors who came from all over were dumbfounded and felt a chill run down their spine. The battle was still going on. Lin Sun's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. Boom! Treasure light flowed and Dao light surged. In front of Mount Tianhui, it was a scene of destruction and destruction. Not long after, a 5th-level emperor was torn apart by thousands of shadows that rushed out of the Origin Spirit Gourd with a shrill scream. His flesh and soul were instantly devoured and refined by the starry sky atlas. The 4th. Lin Sun said indifferently. It was like a note of death, sending chills down everyone's spines. But right at this moment, an expanse of 5-colored divine radiance suddenly floated up into appearance from the distant Sky Radiance Mountain, and it shot into the 9 heavens. In an instant, it seemed to have dyed this expanse of the sky in a boundlessly gorgeous 5-colored light. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread out from the depths of Mount Tianhui. Goldie, who was fighting in the sky, narrowed his eyes and shouted, "Kid, girl, the situation is urgent. Pull back." As the voice rang out, Goldie pressed down with his paw as if he was desperate. He condensed a giant palm print that contained thousands of great Tao laws and reflected the images of all worlds in the sky. It was boundlessly terrifying. Bang! The 8th-level emperor of the Kong family tried his best to resist, but his emperor weapon was sent flying. His entire body was enveloped by the palm print and gripped tightly. Whoosh! Big Yellow's figure had already moved to the void and rushed towards Lin Sun. He was in a hurry as if his butt was on fire. "Let's go." Saying this, it scooped up Xia Ji, who was fighting and was about to take Lin away. He saw a ball of dazzling brilliance burst out in front of Lin, like a big sun exploding in front of him. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. At this instant, the heavens and the earth seemed to have stopped, and the order of the world seemed to have stopped for an instant as well. Forbidden passing divine ability. After hearing Big Yellow's reminder, Lin Sun noticed that the situation was bad, but he was not willing to leave just like that. As such, he planned to teach the Kong family an unforgettable lesson before he left. Boom! Along with the forbidden passing, Lin Sun also exerted all his strength to strike. There was no return. With this slash, the world seemed to be split apart. A dazzling sword chi streaked across the sky, traversing thousands of feet in an instant as if it had transcended time itself. In front of this invincible sword chi, the void seemed to not exist. Be it protective imperial weapons, peerless divine abilities, or mysterious secret arts, none of them existed. Bang! 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 A fifth-level emperor was the first to be killed. His entire being was crushed by the sword Qi, his body and soul destroyed. Then, as the sword Qi crushed down, the Emperor Realm old monsters were torn apart one after another. They were slaughtered like fish on a chopping board, unable to resist at all. However, before the sword Qi completely fell, Lin Sun was grabbed by Big Yellow, who tore the sky apart and disappeared. In the end, of the 8 Emperor Realm old monsters that surrounded Lin Sun, only a 6th-level emperor managed to escape. But he was clearly frightened. He stood in the void, dumbfounded, unable to believe what had just happened. Lin Sun's sword had killed 4 Emperor Realm old monsters in an instant. Only one was left. Rumble, the heavens and earth rumbled as the chaotic and turbulent battle continued to spread. But Lin Sun, Xiaji, and Big Yellow were nowhere to be seen. Just as they disappeared, the 5-colored divine radiance that rushed out from the depths of Mount Tianhui coalesced into a majestic figure that stood between the heavens and earth. The 5-colored divine radiance intertwined with each other, making him look like a god. Upon closer inspection, it was a man that looked like a young man. He wore 5-colored robes and his eyes were as bright as the sun. His entire body exuded an aura that made the heavens tremble. But his body was bound by purple chains that resembled pythons. The chains shimmered with mysterious and cryptic runes. It was a ghastly sight to behold. The shackles of my inner demons prevented me from going into battle right away, resulting in such a tragedy. I, Kong Aotian, have failed my ancestors. The 5-colored figure let out a long sigh filled with boundless hatred. It rumbled and shook the hearts of those who heard it. Far away, the mountains and rivers were in ruins, the earth was cracked, and all living things were dead. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. This scene caused his eyes to turn red while the shackles on his entire body swished. Moreover, his terrifying and seemingly material aura swept through the heavens and the earth, and it was oppressive to the point of being on the verge of suffocation. Bang! Bang! Some cultivators that were watching from extremely far away didn't even have the chance to react before their souls were blasted apart by the sound that swept out, and their bodies exploded into pieces while blood sprayed through the surroundings. In merely an instant, at least a few thousand people had suffered this unexpected calamity. Is the commotion of my Kong clan something that all of you can watch? Fuck off. Kong Aotian's voice had become cold. This expanse of the heavens and the earth droned and trembled, while the mountains and plants in the distance rumbled and collapsed into pieces. For a time, countless cultivators bled from all 7 apertures while their minds were shattered by that voice, and they perished on the spot. Only those with formidable strengths were lucky enough to escape calamity. At this moment, all of them fled desperately. Even imperial emperors didn't dare stay here any longer. Ancestor. In the distance, the few remaining members of the Kong clan had grief and indignation on their faces. They stood before the desolate Sky Brilliance Mountain, and their hearts were filled with bitterness, rage, hatred, and various other emotions. Earlier, Lin Sun, the woman, and the dog had utterly defeated them, and they'd suffered ceaselessly from the battle. This blow was too severe, and the Kong clan didn't even have half of the imperial emperors left. It was too tragic. Someone had come looking for them, yet they'd still been able to escape safely in the end. This wasn't just a matter of losing face, it might even shake the foundation of the Kong clan. Kong Aotian remained silent for a moment before he asked, "Where's Qing Xian?" Someone revealed an ashamed and furious expression as he informed Kong Aotian in a low voice. So this Qing Xian was that old monster at the 8th level of the Imperial Emperor realm that Big Yellow had captured. He was captured alive. Kong Aotian's entire body trembled while the violet shackles that covered his body rattled. I'll absolutely not let this matter rest. The day I break through the shackles of my inner demons will be the day that Lin Daoyuan is killed. After a while, Kong Aotian flicked his sleeves, turned, and disappeared into the void. The remaining old monsters of the Kong clan looked at each other in dismay. All of them looked as if they'd lost their parents, and their faces were so gloomy that it looked like they were about to drip water. In today's Wisdom King ritual, their Imperial Kong clan had lost a great deal of face. In this battle, the Kong clan had lost 4 6th-level Imperial Emperors, 5 5th-level Imperial Emperors, and a total of 7 4th-level Imperial Emperors. In front of Sky Brilliance Mountain, the scene was as bloody as a painting. When the news spread, the Brahma Earth Great World was in an uproar, and countless cultivators were shaken. When the news spread to the starry ancient path, it caused another round of commotion. One should know that the news of what happened in Nirvanic Paradise half a month ago was still fermenting and spreading in the myriad heavens. Now that such a huge piece of news had spread, it was like pouring oil on the fire. The Dao Yuan Emperor is still alive. Heavens, doesn't this mean that the starry ancient path is destined to be chaotic in the future? None of those 5th and 6th level Imperial Emperors who besieged the Dao Yuan Emperor in Nirvanic Paradise made it out alive. Does this mean that they've been killed by the Dao Yuan Emperor? How powerful is the Emperor Kong clan? Who would have thought that the Dao Yuan Emperor would come knocking on their doors and kill their Imperial Emperors like rain? How could the Dao Yuan Emperor be so powerful? Supposedly, Kong Outian, the progenitor of the Kong clan who'd been in charge of the Kong clan since the primeval times, wasn't able to kill the Dao Yuan Emperor. All sorts of discussions shook the starry sky like landslides and tsunamis, and it shocked countless cultivators. It also caused countless sects to tremble in fear and worry. Especially the ancient sects like the 6 great Dao courts and 10 great war clans. When they found out about the tragic fate of the Emperor Kong clan, all of them fell into a state of shock. It was undeniable that the current Lin Sun had become a threat that they had no choice but to take seriously and fear. A calamity that caused them to be unable to eat and sleep in peace. While this news was still spreading, the vast universe arc that carried Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and Big Yellow had already left the Brahma Earth world and was charging towards the depths of the cosmic void. On the treasured ship, a spear that was 18 meters long was placed on a bonfire, and a multicolored peacock that was roasted to the point it was dripping with oil was skewered on the spear. Lin Sun was holding a brush made from peacock feathers, and he was dipping it into the seasonings as he ceaselessly brushed the roasted meat. His movements were skilled, and as he smeared the meat, the fragrance of the meat mixed with the fragrance of the various seasonings. The fragrance that suffused the air was so tempting that it could simply sink into the depths of one's soul. Big Yellow was squatting at the side, and his eyes were staring blankly as saliva flowed out of his mouth like a stream. It was too fragrant. Just look at the translucent and tender meat. Under the roasting of the myriad flames of the way, it was slowly turning brown, and the oil seeped out and slid down while emitting a sizzling sound. Even the sound was so pleasing to the ear, and it caused one's heart to itch unbearably. Leave this pair of wings and claws to me. And the neck as well. It looks delicious. Big Yellow couldn't help but pick up a spiritual object that looked like a sugar cane and nibble on it as a dessert before the main meal. He was too hungry, and he felt like he could eat an entire cow with a single bite. I wanted here, here, and here. Xia Ji stretched out her snow-white fingers that were as slender as suet jade and pointed at the peacock meat. Her clear eyes were also burning like flames, and they shone brightly. If others knew that the peacock being roasted was a multicolored peacock with a cultivation of the 3rd level of the Emperor realm, their eyeballs would probably fall out of their sockets. After all, on this ancient path of the starry sky, who had ever heard of anyone daring to use the body of a great emperor from the Kong family as roasted meat? Chapter 2299. Soon, the entire cabin was filled with the enticing aroma of barbecue. Not ready yet? Big Yellow wagged his tail impatiently. Xia Ji had prepared plates and chopsticks, as well as some divine wine. Soon, Lin Sun sprinkled some heavenly fire pepper powder, regarded as one of the 3 divine treasures, and smeared a layer of Emperor bee jelly on the burnt and oily peacock meat. Suddenly, the enticing aroma became more and more wonderful. This was a peacock at the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. Its meat was crystal clear and contained the essence of spiritual energy. Now that it was roasted by Lin Sun with all kinds of rare condiments, the aroma alone was enough to make all the gluttons in the world fall for it. "It's ready." As soon as Lin Sun finished his words, Big Yellow rushed up at once. He tore off a part of Lin Sun's wing in spite of the heat. His teeth were crisscrossed, and his mouth was full of oil. The meat he chewed emanated dazzling divine radiance, and it was crystalline and translucent. The taste buds at the tip of his tongue simply felt as if they'd exploded, causing Big Yellow to feel refreshed to the point its entire body shivered, while its eyes were filled with an intoxicated expression. On the other side, Xia Ji also started. She held a large piece of thigh meat in her white hands, her cheeks as white as porcelain. When Lin Sun was ready to eat, there was only half of the big roast peacock left. Fragrant, so damn fragrant. Big Yellow was elated and didn't hesitate to praise. "I finally understand why Master couldn't help but eat 2 bowls of peacock meat soup that year. This thing is absolutely the best in the world." Big Yellow was not slow even when he was talking. He stuffed pieces of meat into his mouth, not even sparing the bones. Xia Ji didn't say anything, but she showed her approval of the meat with her actions. The plate beside her was already piled high with bones. Lin Sun was also savoring the taste. While drinking and eating, his soul was satisfied. He felt like he was about to ascend to the heavens. The flesh of a 3rd-level Emperor Realm peacock could be considered to be a peerless treasure, and it contained the essence of Emperor Realm energy that surged like an ocean. Ordinary cultivators would probably explode immediately if they ate a single bite because they wouldn't be able to endure the impact of such energy. Only emperors like Lin Sun, Xia Ji, and Big Yellow dared to enjoy the delicacies so heartily. In less than a quarter of an hour, the whole peacock meat was divided up. Big Yellow smacked its lips as if it had not had enough. "Young fella, why don't you roast another one? I've never had such a good and satisfying meal all these years." Lin Sun was refining the power in the barbecue. Hearing this, he said angrily, "If you want to eat, go barbecue by yourself." What a joke. This kind of roasted meat was not simple. He had to constantly control the temperature of the myriad Tao flames, and he had to do his best to preserve the meat that contained the essence of the 3rd level of the Emperor Realm. He had to do his best to preserve the meat that contained the essence of the 3rd level of the Emperor Realm. In short, it was no different from concocting pills. It consumed a lot of energy. Xia Ji was already very satisfied with the meal. She directly lay down on a soft couch covered with multicolored peacock feathers and fell asleep. Big Yellow sighed and picked up a slender bone with its paw to pick its teeth. It crossed its legs lazily and said longingly, "Aren't we going to the world of true dragon this time? What do you think the meat of a true dragon tastes like?" Lin Sun's body stiffened. This dog was so crazy that it wanted to eat dragon meat. Dragon's liver and phoenix's gallbladder are considered to be the most delicious food in the world. Since the ancient times, it is unknown how many overlords have wanted to have a taste of it. Since we have the opportunity to go to the true dragon world, how can we miss it? Big Yellow looked at Lin Sun with eager eyes full of expectation. "No way." Lin Sun refused flatly. Jing Xian was still in the world of true dragon, and half of the blood of a true dragon flowed in her body. How could she eat the meat of her relatives and friends? That was too crazy. Big Yellow sighed regretfully and said, "Well, we caught a lot of peacocks this time. I want to eat peacock stew, fried peacocks, steamed peacocks, fried peacocks." As it said, it drooled again. Lin Sun rolled his eyes. In the following period of time, the vast universe arc traversed across the starry sky, one star area after another, and one world after another. The journey was peaceful and they didn't encounter any more twists and turns. Lin Sun and the others had a peaceful and fulfilling life. Both Big Yellow and Xia Ji felt very happy during this period of time. Every day, Lin Sun would cook the captured peacock meat in different ways, such as stir-frying, stewing, steaming, braising with all kinds of spiritual vegetables and seasonings. He made a variety of different flavors, and all of them were first-class delicacies. Later, Lin Sun kept some of the best peacock meat, such as the 5-colored peacock at the 8th level of the Emperor realm. He planned to cook a delicious meal for Jing Xian when he met her. The rest of the peacock meat was marinated into jerky that could be eaten at any time. The only thing that surprised Lin Sun was that his strength had improved a lot after eating the 5-colored peacock meat for so many days. He was only one step away from attaining the perfection of the unobtrusive realm. According to Big Yellow, eating so much peacock meat was like eating furnace after furnace of peerless divine medicine. If it was any other first-level emperor, they would have tried to break through long ago. But Lin Sun's cultivation had only increased by 1 level. Big Yellow had to admit that great Emperor Zhu Yin was no ordinary monster. Moreover, Lin Sun wasn't an ordinary peerless great emperor. He could be called a monster among monsters. 20 days later. Longhuan Galaxy, treasured origin world. After Lin Sun and the others arrived on the vast universe arc, they finally arrived at the banks of the Cloud Mist Galaxy after several hours of scouting. The river was vast and mighty, as if it came from the heavens. It meandered like a giant dragon, and from a bird's-eye view, one could vaguely see a strange scrawl of the word fate on the river. In treasured origin world, the Cloud Mist Galaxy was regarded as the first forbidden area. The reason for this was that the vicinity of the river was covered in terrifying thunder and lightning all year round. Anyone who entered the river, regardless of their cultivation, would be lost in it. This place is very strange. As soon as they arrived, Big Yellow showed a strange expression. The power of heaven and earth is completely distorted and turned into a violent torrent of order. Ordinary emperors really can't enter it. It's really strange. Heaven and earth are reversed, and the Great Way is subverted. If people enter it, they will suffer all kinds of disasters and killing. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep. After a moment of careful observation, he took out the map and compared it with the scene in front of him. After a quarter of an hour, their figures appeared in an area of turbulent thunder, where whirlpools emerged in the river, making people's heart palpitate. This was the Tongxian ferry marked on the map, and there was a path to the Xinxian Ridge where the Xian family was located. Just as Lin Sun was searching for the ferry, suddenly, a boat emerged from a whirlpool in the river. A young man stood on it with a smile and waved to Lin Sun. "The famous Dao Yuan Emperor, you're finally here." This young man was Xian Juyin. He flew over on the boat and looked up and down at Lin Sun, saying, "You haven't changed much. I thought you would have 3 heads and 6 arms after becoming Emperor Zhu Shui." Lin Sun laughed. "You've been waiting for me for a long time?" Xian Juyin shook his head and said with a smile, "Whenever someone appears in front of the ferry, he will be noticed by the Xian family. It's a coincidence. Today, on a whim, I pinched my fingers and saw an auspicious sign, implying the arrival of a distinguished guest. So I came in person, and sure enough, I saw the most dazzling Emperor Zhu Shui in the starry sky." He was full of nonsense, and his temperament was still as free and easy as before. But soon, he transmitted a voice to Lin. "Brother Lin, before entering my Xian family, there's one thing I have to remind you. You know, no matter which force in this world, there is never a lack of faction struggle, and my Xian family is no exception. My father originally intended to invite you as a guest, but some stubborn and conservative old things in the clan are very resistant and opposed." Lin Sun couldn't help but frown. According to Xian Juyin, the reason why some old people in the Xian family rejected him as a guest was related to Shi Tiandi. Everyone knew that he was the only person Shi Tiandi had ordered to be wanted. The old people in the Xian family were quite afraid of this, worried that if they got involved with Lin Sun, the Xian family would also be implicated and be hated by Shi Tiandi. In this regard, Xian Shangchen, the head of the Xian family, was extremely disdainful. He thought that with the foundation of the Xian family, there was no need to be afraid of Shi Tiandi. He even said that the dignified Xian family did not dare to let a young man as a guest, which was simply a disgrace to their ancestors. So, I came at the wrong time? Lin Sun collected his thoughts and asked calmly. Xian Juyin laughed and said heroically, "Don't worry, my father said that if anyone dares to stop you, he will break his dog legs." Dog legs? Big Yellow looked at him quietly. "Young man, be careful of your words." Xian Juyin was also a fearless person, but being stared at by Big Yellow, he felt scared and laughed awkwardly. Xian Juyin reminded again, "Brother Lin, if you really encounter any obstacle after entering the Xian family, you can show your strength. As long as you don't kill them, you can do whatever you want." Lin Sun frowned. "Didn't you say that no one dares to stop me?" Xian Juyin said seriously, "No one dares to stop you from entering the Xian family. But after you enter the Xian family, the situation will be different. Although my father is the patriarch, he can't cover the sky with one hand." After a pause, he continued, "But don't worry, my father said that as long as you show enough strength to make those old guys approve of you, they will not dare to tear off their faces and make things difficult for you." Lin Sun was silent. Seeing this, Xian Juyin couldn't help feeling anxious. "Brother Lin? I swear it's absolutely not to make things difficult for you. It's just that those old guys are too stubborn, you." Lin Sun said with a smile, "Okay, I understand. Hurry up and lead the way." If he was just a guest, Lin Sun would never agree after hearing such a proposal. Did a guest need approval? What kind of logic was this? Chapter 2300. Seeing that Lin Sun agreed, Xian Juyin also breathed a sigh of relief, but he was also very depressed. Originally, it was his father who took the initiative to invite Lin Sun to be a guest. Now, when Lin Sun came, he would be rejected and rejected. This was simply outrageous. But Xian Juyin also knew that the elders of Xian family were in a high position, and they couldn't be shaken by a young man like him. The group of people in the boat instantly disappeared in the depths of a whirlpool on the rolling Long River. When Lin Sun's vision recovered, he had already appeared in a secret realm. Fresh and auspicious immortal Gang Qi came to his face. There were beautiful mountains and clear waters everywhere, flowing springs and waterfalls, beautiful grasses and flowers, intelligent birds and beasts, and countless treasures of heaven and earth dotted every corner. It was really a pure land. In the center of the distant world, there were towering mountains, on which many palaces were built. Especially in the depths of the void of the mountains, there was a faintly discernible powerful aura, as if it was a cave opened in space by someone with profound spiritual power. Good place. As far as Lin Sun's eyes could see, every inch of space in this world was full of pure and strong chaotic spiritual energy, purple evil spirit essence. Star Gang Qi. 1 year of cultivation here was probably equivalent to 10 years of cultivation in the outside world. This was Xian family. The mountains in the distance were the Shunxian Ridge. It was said that it was a holy mountain condensed by the power of the chaotic treasure, Shunxian Treasure Mirror, which was comparable to the divine green mountain of the black-yellow Taoist court. Brother Lin, although you have reached the Emperor realm, you must be careful. Those elders of Xian family also know that you are not comparable to ordinary Emperor realm, and they have even investigated your background. If someone dares to stop you, he must have something to rely on. After arriving here, Xian Juyin quickly reminded. Lin Sun nodded, looking as indifferent as before. As he spoke, a wave of fluctuation arose in space, and then a majestic and imposing figure floated up into appearance. His body seemed as if it was made from liquid bronze, and he had a resolute expression and a terrifying cold gaze. His entire body was bathed in dazzling violet Emperor Dao laws, and he seemed like a god that had descended to the world. Seventh uncle. Xian Juyin was stunned. He never expected that as soon as he entered the territory of Xian family, an unexpected person would appear so quickly. Xiaojiu, you should know what is going to happen. Just step aside. The robust man spoke with a powerful voice that carried a supreme, imposing aura. Then, he looked at Lin Sun and said, I'm Xian Yunheng, at the 5th level of Emperor Realm. People call me Sword Emperor Yunheng. Defeat me and you can continue forward. His words were concise and comprehensive, and they were filled with indifference. Seventh uncle, don't tell me you don't know that the Dao Yuan Emperor has killed many old people in the 6th level of the Emperor Realm. For you to come like this, isn't it a little? Xian Juin's expression was uncertain. How can those peers in the outside world compare to me? Xian Yunheng's eyes were suffused with a trace of disdain. Little Nine, do you know why members of our Xian clan dare to look down on the great powers of this ancient starry sky path? His tone was filled with incomparable pride. Because our surname is Xian, the power we control is also stronger than theirs. Xian Juyin nodded. Seventh uncle is right. But don't forget that you are at the 5th level of the Emperor Realm, and the Dao Yuan Emperor is only at the 1st level of the Emperor Realm. With your identity and status, you still came to make things difficult for a young man. Even if you win, don't you think you're embarrassing the Xian clan? He was really exasperated. Xian Yunheng's combat strength was indeed not comparable to an ordinary 5th level Emperor Realm cultivator. In fact, in this realm, he already had a terrifying foundation that was invincible. Xian Yunheng glanced at Xian Juyin coldly. You don't have to provoke me. In this starry sky, who doesn't know that Lin Sun is the first person to step into the Emperor Realm in 100,000 years? Who doesn't know that 20 days ago, the Tianhui mountain of the Imperial Kong clan was stained with blood? After a pause, he looked at Lin Sun again. It's because I think highly of you that I think you have the strength to make me fight. That's why I came first. The cold voice was terrifyingly calm. Now, do you dare to fight me? Big Yellow was about to say something, but he was stopped by Lin Sun. He looked at Xian Yunheng and said, After you, is there anyone else who wants to stand in my way? Xian Yunheng's expression was indifferent. Defeat me and you will know. If you stop here, what's the point of knowing? Lin Sun nodded. I will only use one sword. If you can block it, I will immediately turn around and leave. In the dark, unknown to Lin Sun, some of the elders who noticed this scene all revealed astonished expressions. This Lin Daoyuan actually dared to look down on Xian Yunheng so much. Did he really think that he could look down on everyone in the starry sky after stepping into the absolute peak? Someone clapped his hands and laughed. Only those who have stepped into the Emperor Realm have such great courage. How can ordinary people understand this? One sword? Even Xian Yunheng frowned, his face full of frost. One sword. Lin Sun's words were calm. He was neither arrogant nor rash, neither arrogant nor conceited. However, that calm attitude made people not dare to underestimate him. Even if he was already furious in his heart, Xian Yunheng didn't be careless or underestimate Lin Sun, and he nodded and said, Then let me experience the style of this sword. As he spoke, his robust body stretched out and instantly transformed into a 3 kilometers tall giant that stood towering in the heavens and the earth. His muscles bulged like numerous small hills, and they were suffused with a violent aura. His entire body was like a towering fiend god of legend that possessed monstrous might. The golden and brilliant divine radiance that effused out from his body illuminated the heavens and the earth, and the shadow that covered the heavens and the earth was projected down from his body. Big Yellow glanced at him and said, His aura has entered the Tao, and his might has entered the truth realm. He really isn't someone an ordinary 5th-level Emperor Realm expert can compare to. Xia Ji and Xian Juyin had already moved away a long time ago. Come, let me see how formidable this sword strike of yours is. Xian Yunheng spread his arms wide open and seemed to be able to cover the sky. His legs stood towering like pillars that held up the heavens, and the aura he emitted was terrifying to the point space started droning and wailing. Undoubtedly, he'd circulated his cultivation to the extreme. However, Lin Sun's black eyes were indifferent and emotionless, and he casually clenched his fist in the air, as if he was drawing a sword. Along with this action of his, the heavens and the earth suddenly shook, and the air in the surroundings seemed to have been sucked out while the 3 kilometers of space suddenly collapsed. In Lin Sun's palm, a dazzling and resplendent blade of a sword was drawn out inch by inch. The heavens and the earth trembled with every inch it was drawn out, and a strand of boundlessly murderous and fierce sword intent spread out in all directions, causing plants to be crushed into powder while the ground cracked like a spider web. Xian Yunheng's pupils flickered while his body faintly ached, and this caused him to be unable to help but be surprised. The combat instinct that he'd gained from many years of battles caused him to choose to attack at the first possible moment. Offense was the strongest defense in the world. Bang! He swung his arm that was thick like a mountain and smashed a fist towards Lin Sun. This fist was coiled with dense profundities of the great Tao, and it was heavy like a mountain. It was like a pillar of light that tore apart the sky and intended to crush the world. The surging power of the Emperor realm pierced through the 9 heavens and 10 earth. At this moment, a 9-inch sword condensed in Lin Sun's palm and bloomed with sword energy that was thousands of meters long. It was like the first ray of light before the dawn of darkness, covering the universe and illuminating the heavens. 9-inch eternal destruction. The fist and the sword crossed each other, and the divine light rumbled and the sound of Tao was like thunder. The fist that was powerful enough to crush mountains and rivers was split apart by a sword, and it turned into a rain of light that covered the sky and dissipated. Bang! The void shattered. After the sword energy slashed down, Xian Yunheng's huge body that was thousands of meters tall was chopped away and smashed into pieces of the void. In the end, he smashed onto the ground, leaving a huge human-shaped ravine on the ground and causing smoke and dust to fill the sky. With one sword, an old monster of the Xian family with a terrifying foundation in the 5th level of the Emperor realm was chopped away. Xia Ji and Yellow were not surprised at all and looked calm. But it was the first time that Xian Zhuyin saw Lin Sun, who had stepped into the Emperor realm, make a move. He was so shocked that his mouth opened wide and his pupils widened. So fierce? In the dark, this sword also shocked the hearts of countless old men of the Xian family, and they all had different expressions. Again. Rumble. The ground cracked and shattered, the rocks were blasted into pieces, and the layer of clouds collapsed and dispersed. It shook the wind and clouds in all directions. Xian Yunheng charged out and stood in the sky, and his voice carried boundless rage. Lin Sun placed his hands behind his back and said with an expressionless face, "You can't even resist a single sword, so what qualifications do you have to be arrogant? It's time for you to move aside." Xian Yunheng gasped for breath while his expression changed indeterminately, and he flicked his sleeve after a long time before turning around and teleporting away. "Seventh uncle, it's not a loss to be defeated by a sword strike of a peerless great emperor." Xian Zhuyin grinned as he shouted, and he seemed to be intentionally provoking Xian Yunheng. In the dark, the faces of countless old men of the Xian family darkened, and they glared at Xian Yunheng. This bastard is actually helping an outsider to ridicule a senior of the Xian family. Could it be that you're a peerless sword emperor? Suddenly, a hoarse and low voice resounded in the heavens and the earth, and along with this voice, a figure that was suffused with a bloodthirsty and murderous aura appeared out of thin air. She wore multicolored clothes, her hair was white like snow, and her plain and beautiful face carried a ruthless aura that caused one's heart to tremble. She stared at Lin Sun while a wisp of battle intent that seemed as if it was burning faintly surged into her eyes, and it was a battle posture of eagerness to hunt. "I'm not." Lin Sun shook his head. Even if he possessed numerous supreme sword Dao inheritances, he wasn't a pure sword cultivator. At the same time, Xian Juin's nervous voice resounded by his ears, and it told him the identity of this woman. Xian Caney. She was in existence at the 6th level of the Emperor realm, and she was called the Spirit-Devouring Sword Emperor. She'd once defeated 37 Sword Dao Emperors at the same realm with a single sword strike, and she was considered to be peerless in the Sword Dao amongst those at the same realm. Even Xian Juin had never imagined that this little ant, who was ranked 13th in the Sword Dao, would appear, and her surging battle intent was directed at Lin Sun. That sword strike was the inheritance of the sword-drawing technique of the primeval skysplitter. If you're not a sword emperor, how could you possibly obtain his inheritance? Xian Caney frowned as she obviously recognized Lin Sun's sword strike from before. Just because I'm not a sword cultivator doesn't mean I don't know sword Dao. Lin Sun sensed a dangerous aura from this woman, and his black eyes narrowed slightly. Defeat me, and no one in the Xian family will stop you, Xian Caney said directly in a straightforward and powerful manner. Chapter 2301. In the shadows, someone couldn't help but laugh. Who would have imagined that Kai and I, who's infatuated with the sword Dao and doesn't care about the affairs of the world, would instead take the initiative to stand out? However, it all depends on whether that kid is able to defeat Kai and I. Alas, if it's really impossible, then I'll have to disregard my old face and make that kid stay. At the same time, Xian Juin couldn't help but say, "Little ant, isn't this bullying?" Xian Caney frowned. In a battle of the sword Dao, winning or losing isn't scary. You haven't become an emperor, so you don't understand. Those words nearly choked Xian Juin to death. Of course, he had not become a martial emperor yet, but what did that have to do with whether he knew how to bully others? Clang! A sword appeared in Xian Caney's hand. At the same time, her snow-white hair suddenly straightened like a waterfall that fluttered in the sky, and it was suffused with a bloodthirsty sword insight that caused one's heart to palpitate. Her sword was 3 feet and 2 fen long and 2 fingers wide. The blade was thick and blunt, and the blade was branded with dark red mottled bloodstains, like blood-stained plum blossoms. As soon as it appeared, merely the aura suffused on the sword tore open numerous damaged marks in space, and it emanated strands of sharp and ear-piercing explosions. A very powerful sword. This was the understanding of everyone present. Especially when it was held in Xian Caney's slender and fair palm, the sword seemed as if it had come to life, and it flickered with sword chi as if it was unable to restrain itself from drinking the blood of its enemies. Emperor's sword drinks blood. Xian Juin's pupils constricted. He'd never imagined that Xian Caney would actually take the initiative to utilize the imperial armament that she was famous for before the battle had even begun. This monarch sword was stained with fresh blood and could be said to be a peerless murderous weapon. The dark red mottled bloodstains on the body of the sword represented the sword sovereigns that had died under this sword. As for those below the Emperor realm, they were not qualified to be imprinted on the blood-drinker imperial sword. Even Lin Sun felt a chill in his heart when he saw such a ferocious weapon that had drunk all the blood of the Emperor, and the sense of danger that Xian Caney brought him became stronger and stronger. "Where's your sword?" Xian Caney asked. "I don't have a natal Emperor weapon," Lin Sun said calmly. "Of course, if you want to compete with treasures, that's fine too." A few of the Xian family's elders laughed in secret. When facing a 6th-level sword emperor that possessed boundless slaughter like Xian Caney, he was either ignorant and fearless, or he possessed sufficient resources to speak such words. In their view, Lin Sun was ignorant and fearless. Caney's performance is also not bad. She is slightly stronger than the people we arranged. Someone commented. This is a rare sword genius of our Xian family. He was born with an exquisite sword heart. How can an ordinary person compare to him? But, a 6th-level emperor against a 1st-level emperor, it doesn't sound good. Xian Caney frowned and put away the blood-drinker imperial sword as the elders of the Xian family discussed in secret. She looked straight at Lin Sun and said, "I won't bully you. Since you don't have a sword in your hand, I'll suppress you with my own swordsmanship." When she finished speaking, she suddenly turned into a colorful stripe, like an aurora cutting through the void, and shot towards Lin Sun with an incomparably cold momentum. There was only a distance of 3,000 meters between her and Lin Sun. But at this moment, as soon as she moved, the 3,000 meters of void was torn apart by a sharp light like a piece of cloth. It went straight to Lin Sun in less than a moment. But what was faster than her was the sword that came out from his fingertip. It was too fast. If it were someone else, they would not have time to react and would be torn apart by this sword that was as swift as lightning and as fast as teleportation. This chick is powerful. Big Yellow couldn't help but be moved. This sword had already cast all the essence, chi, and spirit of the whole body in it, so the aura it released was extremely terrifying. In the face of this sword, Lin Sun's expression was unmoved. He pressed his finger. Swish. The same sword chi whizzed out like a cold arc drawn by the tip of a brush, and accurately stabbed the point of sword light that was coming at him, as if it had foreseen the future. Bang! The collision between them erupted with an explosion that tore at one's eardrums. Even the eye could see a strand of terrifying destructive airflow rumbling as it dispersed into the surroundings between the two strands of sword chi. Everywhere it passed, space was crushed into pieces, and a horrifying vacuum was formed. This extremely fierce and chilling sword was really blocked by Lin Sun. Yes, this is the sword-drawing Tao of sky-punishing swordsmen. Xian Caney's beautiful eyes narrowed while her voice carried a trace of surprise and even a trace of excitement. In the next moment, the two of them separated tacitly and collided with each other tacitly, launching a soul-stirring and intense battle. This was a duel between two Emperor Realm swordsmen. The strange thing was that after the two of them exchanged blows, although their moves were peerlessly swift and fierce to the extreme, they actually didn't collide again. However, the killing intent within caused everyone's hearts to palpitate with fear. Swish from time to time, the fierce whistling sound of sword chi could be heard in the air, and it embellished the silent and strange atmosphere as if it was reminding everyone how terrifying this battle was. It was precisely these strands of sword chi that shot out from time to time that caused the sound of their battle to seem even more terrifying. It was soundless and had never collided. Perhaps the moment the two clashed would be the moment the outcome of the battle was decided. Whether it was Xia Ji, Big Yellow, Xian Juin, or the old man of the Xian clan who was secretly watching all this, all of them held their breath and stared at the battle in fear of missing any detail. Xian Caney's cultivation base was at the 6th level of the Emperor Realm. Her sword Dao was filled with a terrifying and bloodthirsty killing intent. It was a pure Dao of slaughter that was obviously honed through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. She seemed to have become a peerless and fierce sword. Every move she made was fierce and swift, and her sword chi flew and tore the sky apart. It was so powerful that it made people's hearts tremble. Even Big Yellow had to admit that Xian Caney was not simple. She was not an ordinary 6th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. But what surprised Big Yellow the most was Lin Sun. His entire body glowed brilliantly while every single pore on his body surged with strands of sharp sword chi. He and Xian Caney possessed two completely different sword daos, and their imposing auras were completely different as well. His sword move was extremely simple. He drew his sword, slashed, and repeated it over and over again. However, it faintly carried the terrifying might of 10,000 swords converging into one and destroying all techniques with a single strike. On the other hand, Bai Hong's sword Dao was slaughter, fierce and pure slaughter. The current battle between the two of them didn't seem to be a scene that shook the heavens and the earth, yet it possessed a force that caused one's heart to palpitate. It was a battle between two supreme sword daos that were profound to the extreme and possessed extraordinary attainments, and it contained great terror and danger. At the same time, this battle alarmed the old men of the Xian clan, and strands of consciousness swept over and communicated soundlessly with each other. 3 inches of eternal silence, 6 inches of eternal death, 9 inches of eternal destruction. This kid really is the inheritor of Swordmaster Skysplitter that vanished during the primeval times. Emperor Ju's Dao really is heaven-defying. He's a young man, yet he's actually able to fight equally with Caney. No wonder such a figure was able to become the inheritor of Mount Heart. Everyone, don't forget that this kid is wanted by Emperor Shi Tiandi. So what if he's Emperor Shi Tiandi? If our Xian clan really goes all out, why would we be afraid of an old fellow from the Permithaluo clan? Why should our Xian clan shed all pretenses with Emperor Shi Tiandi for an outsider? This kid possesses the resources of an eternal exalt, and he's even the inheritor of Mount Heart. Could it be that this isn't enough for us to attach importance to? Enough. There's no point in arguing. Let's see if he's able to pass this test before us. Before that, all arguments are meaningless. Instantly, all the communication vanished, and it became silent as everyone continued to watch the battle. Not bad, not bad. You've fully comprehended the essence of the Sword Dao. Such a Sword Dao has truly broadened my horizons. However, such strength isn't enough to defeat me. Where's the Sword Control Dao and the Heart Sword Dao? Why aren't you executing them? In the battle, Xian Caney licked her rosy lips. In addition to the bloodthirsty murderous aura, there was also a kind of surprise on her plain and beautiful face. The confrontation between the two had reached the most intense level. Although they hadn't really collided, the danger and killing intent between their moves made everyone's heart tighten involuntarily. But according to Xian Caney's words, she was actually using this battle to spy on the mystery of Lin Sun's Sword Dao. With my current strength, I haven't begun to practice the Sword Control Dao and the Heart Sword Dao, said Lin Sun. The inheritance of Sword Master Sky Punisher was divided into 3 parts, namely the Sword Dao, the Sword Control Dao, and the Heart Sword Dao. Indeed, Lin Sun hadn't begun to practice the last 2 kinds of Sword Dao. Xian Caney frowned as if she was puzzled. The meaning of Lin Sun's words was very simple. He had the strength to practice, but he hadn't started. You're really not a pure sword practitioner. How can you be so half-hearted in Sword Dao? She frowned with disappointment in her eyes. If so, you can only stop here. Swish. She slashed out a peerless sword chi that was filled with killing intent, and it shot through the heavens and the earth, enveloped the surroundings, and was boundlessly dazzling. That's not necessarily the case. As he spoke, Lin Sun's aura suddenly changed. Countless dense and dazzling Taishan sword chi sprayed out from the acupoints all over his body, and it covered the void and the sky. The surging sword light was simply omnipresent and omnipresent. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, Xian Caney's sword strike was obliterated and dissipated by the sword formations. Taishan's sword scripture. Xian Caney wasn't shocked but delighted, and her eyes rippled with extraordinary splendor. I never expected that you've actually mastered the inheritance of Taishan's Sword Emperor. This was too unbelievable. At the beginning of the primitive times, Taishan's Sword Emperor was regarded as the #1 Sword Emperor in the world, and Sky Punisher Sword Emperor was regarded as the #1 Sword Master in the Dark World. The 2 unparalleled Sword Emperors had originally arranged to have a battle that would attract the attention of all the people in the world, but the sudden arrival of the first tribulation of oblivion caused this battle to be unable to take place. Who could have imagined that the inheritance of these 2 unparalleled Sword Emperors had actually appeared in the possession of a single person? To Xian Caney, who was infatuated with the cultivation of Sword Dao, this was simply like discovering a supreme treasure, and her heart was filled with excitement. At the same time, the old men of the Xian clan that were paying attention to all of this from the shadows were stunned as well. Taishian Sword Emperor. That was a peerless and dazzling sword emperor during the primitive times. Chapter 2302. Even though she was shocked that Lin Sun had grasped the inheritance of Taishian Sword Emperor, Xian Caney's actions weren't slow at all. Star annihilation, collapse in all directions. She waved her fair and translucent palm and fingers, and a terrifying and monstrous sword intent exploded out, causing the void to collapse as it instantly smashed down. Rumble! The heavens and the earth were in disorder, and the sun and moon lost their light. In the void, the blazing sword chi that was vast like an ocean transformed into various sword formations that were tight like cages and possessed the might to blot out the sky and cover the sun. No matter how Xian Caney attacked, she was obliterated and defeated by the sword formations that covered the heavens and the earth. It was even to the extent that it became difficult for her to approach Lin Sun. Earlier, when Lin Sun executed the drawing sword Dao, it just happened to be like a myriad of swords converging into one. Now that he executed the Taishian sword scripture, it could be said to be a myriad of sword techniques. Two completely different supreme sword Daos were now easily executed by him, and even though the might they displayed was completely different, they could both be said to be sword Daos that could shock the ages. This caused the old men of the Xian clan in the dark to be extremely shocked. On the other hand, Lin Sun had also benefited a lot from fighting with a peerless sword emperor like Xian Caney. Even though he'd experienced numerous slaughters after stepping into the Ju-Di realm, strictly speaking, he hadn't encountered a formidable opponent that he could truly fight head-on. The most precious and difficult thing was that the battle with Xian Caney was completely relying on his own combat strength. This kind of battle and tempering was undoubtedly too rare for Lin Sun now. It was as if a peerless sword had finally found a furnace that could temper it thousands of times. In this kind of battle, Lin Sun fought to his heart's content, and he completely let go of all his cultivation. For a time, the vast sword chi covered the entire world. Xian Caney was moved, and her beautiful eyes glowed. She noticed the changes in Lin Sun's state of mind and fighting spirit, and she was extremely shocked in her heart. A young man who had just stepped into the Ju-Di realm was actually able to compete with her in Sword Dao. It was too rare. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Xian Caney's aura changed again. If it was said that she was excited to see a prey before her, then it was like she'd found a rare treasure that she could figure out. But at this moment, she truly regarded Lin Sun as a formidable opponent. An opponent that was sufficient for her to go all out. Boom! Her multicolored clothes fluttered, her snow-white hair fluttered, and the surging sword chi around her transformed into a horrifying scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and a surging aura of blood and slaughter spread out. She was only one person, but she was like the supreme sword venerable who suppressed the gods. In the dark, someone was stunned. Has little sister gone mad? Is she going to risk her life like this? Those old men of the Xian clan were shocked. During these 3,000 years, Xian Caney had sat alone in the starry sky, slashing stars, striking flowing lights, and stabbing Zhou Su. She'd long since attained an unprecedented state in her sword Dao. Everyone in the Xian clan firmly believed that when Xian Caney attained the sword ancestor realm, her sword Dao would definitely suppress the heavens and reign supreme in the future on the ancient path of the starry sky. She would reveal a supreme might that was comparable to the primeval Taishian sword emperor. Yet now, for the sake of dealing with a young man who just stepped foot into the Juing emperor realm, she'd actually gone all out. This undoubtedly proved that Lin Daoyuan wasn't simple at all. When they thought up to here, the hearts of some old men of the Xian clan were slightly shaken. Is it really good to refuse a young man like this as a guest merely because she's unwilling to shed all pretenses with Heavenly Emperor Sure? The next sword strike is a supreme sword strike that I've comprehended after expending painstaking effort to observe 1,163 ancient sword Dao inheritances and experiencing 3,000 years of tempering. Xian Caney spoke while a peerlessly sharp light surged out from her body and threw the world into disorder, and she was like an overlord of the sword Tao that resided in the world. As she spoke, a strand of sword chi floated up into appearance in her palm. It was clean and simple like a pool of autumn water, yet it reflected all the phenomena in the world. Amazing! Goldie's pupils constricted. An existence like him had seen countless extraordinary existences, yet Xian Caney caused him to be dazed, and he actually felt as if he'd seen the graceful bearing of a peerless ancestor of the sword that was slowly rising. Xia Ji frowned and seemed to be slightly unable to sit still, yet she was stopped by Goldie. Let that kid block this sword strike. No matter if he succeeds or fails, it's a great fortune that can only be chanced upon by luck. As for Xian Jiuyin, he'd been unable to clearly see everything that was occurring on the battlefield since a long time ago. It couldn't be helped, his cultivation was truly slightly insufficient. Please. At this moment, Lin Sun took a deep breath as well. His black eyes were bright while the spirit, energy, and spirit in his entire body were unprecedentedly condensed, and his body was like a furnace. Watch carefully. Amidst her casual voice, Xian Caney slashed out with this sword strike. This was the most murderous sword strike that she'd tempered throughout her entire lifetime, and it was also the strongest strike she could control at this moment. Amongst those of the same generation, there were practically only a few that could force her to execute this strike. When facing this sword strike that gathered the intent of slaughter and blood, Lin soon pressed his hands together, causing everything in the entire sky to seem as if it was sucked out and collapsed inch by inch, and then an ethereal strand of sword chi surged out from the collapse. Gone without return. Unlike in the past, the might of gone without return that Lin soon executed at this moment had risen explosively by more than 100 times. As soon as it appeared, it disrupted the phenomena in the sky and mixed up yin and yang, causing the heavens and the earth to fall into an atmosphere of destruction that caused despair and helplessness. All those years ago, Combat Emperor Wu Yang had once said that she'd fought throughout her entire lifetime and killed countless people, yet she only knew a single sword move, and it was called Gone Without Return. This was a type of resolute sword intent, an imposing aura that didn't worry about success or failure, was fearless of life and death, and had no worries. In the past, Lin Sun had only comprehended the form of this sword move. Now, he'd finally executed the intent of this sword move. He'd forgotten all forms. He was the proudest in the world. Xian Caney's sword suddenly shook violently like a restless beast that had received a lethal summon, and it actually intended to struggle free from her control. Xian Caney's pupils constricted when she saw this, and she exerted her entire strength to suddenly suppress this force that struggled free. Bang! Lin Sun's sword had already slashed over. At that instant, everyone felt suffocated when they sensed the nirvana intent contained within this sword intent, and they revealed a wisp of disbelief. On the other hand, a wisp of shock couldn't help but appear on Xian Caney's face. She suddenly noticed that she was already unable to dodge, and unless she stopped suppressing this sword strike, otherwise she would definitely suffer an injury from Lin Sun's sword strike. But as a sword emperor that was infatuated with the sword, how could she watch helplessly as her sword intent left her grasp? That would be equivalent to abandoning her sword heart and sword Tao. Even if she was able to survive, her Tao heart would definitely be covered in a shadow that couldn't be eliminated, and that was something that Xian Caney was absolutely unwilling to see happen. So she didn't shrink back or hesitate in the slightest, and she collided with Lin Sun's sword strike. Rumble! It was like two suns had collided in this expanse of the heavens and the earth, and it erupted with a boundlessly terrifying torrent of the sword Tao. It tore through space, charged through the surroundings, and swept towards the surroundings. The surging sword chi caused the nearby mountains and rivers to be flattened, the rocks and plants in the surroundings to be completely transformed into powder and vaporized, and an extremely enormous ravine was blasted open on the ground. On the other hand, The layer of clouds in the sky collapsed while the group of stars shook. At this instant, all the living beings in this secret realm were alarmed, and their hearts trembled as they looked around in shock. At this instant, Xia Ji, Goldie, and the old men of the Xian family in the dark couldn't see anything. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and they couldn't see through the subtle profundities within it at all. It wasn't that their cultivation wasn't high enough, but the seemingly simple sword strike of this level of sword Tao contained the will, spirit, and temperament of the two of them. The profundities within it couldn't be seen by outsiders. When the smoke and dust dispersed, the picturesque landscape seemed to have been violently torn apart by a giant hand, and it had long been changed beyond recognition. Desolation covered the landscape, and it was a ghastly sight. At the center of the battlefield, Lin Sun stood in the void. There was a sword wound on his body, and fresh blood dripped from it, dyeing his clothes red. His face was so pale that it was almost translucent. Thousands of feet away from him, Xian Caney was completely unharmed, but her eyes were a little unfocused. After staring blankly for a while, she sighed with emotion, "You won't be able to return. You've actually completely grasped the profundities of Battle Emperor Wu Yang's sword strike." At the end of her words, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, but it disappeared very quickly. "Senior, thank you for letting me win." Lin Sun took a deep breath and cupped his hands in front of his chest. He was in awe of Xian Caney's attainments in sword Tao. "I didn't let you win." Xian Caney shook her head and said, "From now on, you're a distinguished guest of the Xian family. Whoever stops you will be against me, Xian Caney." Swish. She turned around and left. Her white hair was like snow, and her colorful clothes fluttered in the wind. "Before you leave, if you want to learn from each other, you can find me at Stargazing Valley." Her voice was still echoing, but she had already disappeared. Big Yellow said with emotion, "This girl's temperament and strength are the best in the world. If you hadn't stepped into Juing Emperor realm, I'm afraid you wouldn't be her opponent." Big Yellow had witnessed everything, and also witnessed Xian Caney's unparalleled talent in sword Tao. He knew clearly that if Lin Sun really fought with his life on the line, he wouldn't be her opponent if he didn't use some special means. "Lin Sun, are you seriously injured?" Xia Ji obviously didn't care about anything else. She only cared about whether Lin Sun was seriously injured or not. Lin Sun shook his head with a smile. "I'm fine. Speaking of which, I've learned a lot from this battle." Experiencing this battle caused an impulse that couldn't be restrained to surge into his heart, and it was to completely fuse all the sword Daos he'd grasped and transform them into a sword Tao that truly belonged to him. Similarly, if he wanted to perfect the Great Way Furnace scripture to the level of Emperor Sutra, he must thoroughly integrate all the inheritances he had obtained. Only in this way could the Great Way Furnace scripture truly become his own Emperor Sutra. "Brother Lin, you're not a human at all." At this time, Xian Juin, who had fallen into a state of shock, finally came to his senses. He looked at Lin Sun as if he was looking at a living monster. No one knew better than him how terrible a female sword emperor his aunt, Xian Caney, was. In Xian family, there might be many old monsters who were more powerful than Xian Caney. But in terms of potential and foundation, Xian Caney would surpass these old monsters sooner or later. It was no exaggeration to say that Xian Caney was equivalent to a sword emperor with a bright future in Xian family. Sooner or later, she would dominate the world. Chapter 2303. In the dark, the elders of the Xian family were all silent. "Caney has already approved of this child, do we still?" someone asked after a while. "If we let this child be a guest and Emperor Shi finds out, there will definitely be a storm. Our Xian family is not afraid of falling out with Emperor Shi, but is it worth it to do this for an outsider?" These elders discussed. No matter which ancient clan it was, when they encountered a troublesome matter, the first thing they would consider was the clan's interests. "If he is not worth us doing this, then who else in this starry sky is worth our Xian family doing this?" Suddenly, a muddy and low voice sounded, suppressing all the other voices. Now, let me ask you again, what is the identity of this Lin Sun? This sentence made all the elders of the Xian family silent. Thinking about it carefully, they could not help but feel frightened. Lin Sun's identity was too not simple. He was the successor of Mount Fangsuan, the successor of Supreme Mystery Sword Emperor, Sky Punishing Sword Venerable, and Battle Emperor Wu Yang, the first young man to step on the Emperor's path in the last 100,000 years, the only person to obtain the fortune of an immortal sovereign since ancient times. So many halos gathered on a young man, this in itself was very unbelievable. That muddy voice sounded again. Don't forget, Xian Kong is his senior brother. And how Xian Kong died, have you all forgotten? Xian Kong. Those elders of the Xian family became even more silent. From now on, whoever dares to resist and reject this child will be the sinner of our Xian family. That muddy voice disappeared, but this final decision made the elders of the Xian family unable to calm down. They knew that from today onwards, for this Lin Daoyuan, their Xian family would rather shed all pretense of cordiality with Emperor Shi. Divine Profound Ridge. Under Xian Juin's lead, Lin Sun and the others finally arrived at the core ancestral land that belonged to the Xian family. The ancient mountain was steaming with chaotic qi, and the buildings on it were row upon row. Along the way, old trees could be seen everywhere, divine medicines were in clusters, divine birds and auspicious beasts could be seen everywhere. Even some of the maids and guards that they saw along the way, all of them had extremely shocking attainments in cultivation. As far as the eye could see, everything on the mysterious God Ridge seemed to be silently telling the world what the ancient Emperor clan's foundation was. Even Big Yellow clicked his tongue in admiration and said, "If I cultivated here since I was born and breathed chaotic energy all day and night to cultivate supreme inheritances, then even my food and drink would be top-rate divine medicines and precious treasures in the world. Would I have to worry about not being able to accomplish anything in the path of the Grand Tao? The descendants of the Xian family are innately superior to most of their peers." Xian Juin chuckled and said, "This is all thanks to the grace of our ancestors. Everyone says that you, Xian Juin, are so amazing. Isn't it because you're a descendant of the Xian family? I've always wanted to say that they're right. Our Xian family has always been amazing." Show off. Big Yellow spat on the ground. The cultivation of the Great Tao is all about cultivation resources. If one doesn't have a heart that upholds the Tao, one won't be able to go far. Xian Juin chuckled and said, "Clearly, I'm not such a person. In fact, the reason my Xian family is able to stand towering until now is because the clan can't tolerate the existence of trash. If the younger generation wants to rise and grow, then they'll even have to experience even more brutal tempering. If all of them were to sit idly by and rely on the grace of their ancestors, then the Xian family would have been finished since a long time ago." Lin Sun rather approved of these words. If any ancient power wanted to exist for eternity, then it would surely spend a great deal of effort to foster the next generation of young people. Only in this way would it be able to pass down the torch and continue existing without end. Were there any domineering and arrogant profligate disciples from rich families? Yes. But these profligate disciples similarly possessed strong cultivations, and their domineering and arrogant actions were none other than related to their disposition. As they chatted, they'd already arrived before an ancient building that stood towering on the side of a cliff. Auspicious clouds converged here while chaos suffused the surroundings, and it revealed a divine and solemn aura. The patriarch of the Xian family, Xian Shangchen, was waiting before the entrance of the ancient building since a long time ago. His tall and mighty figure stood there casually, yet he emanated a domineering aura that assaulted the face. He was like a sovereign that possessed the aura to swallow the world and control the world. This was Xian Shangchen, the person that was regarded as the most ferocious in the Emperor realm on the ancient path of the starry sky. Emperor Daoyuan, Battle Emperor Xiao, and this young lady, I've been waiting here for a long time. Please come in. When he saw Lin Sun's group arrive, Xian Shangchen laughed loudly as he moved forward to welcome them. Greetings, senior. Lin Sun cupped his hands. Even though this was the first time he'd met Xian Shangchen, he'd already committed Xian Shangchen's name to memory. This person was the only person that Lin Sun knew who'd entered the heaven-accessing realm, and he was only a step away from opening the door to heaven. On the Kunlun Ruins ascension platform, Xian Shangchen's name had once hung high above the sky, and his name had been left behind through the ages. He was Xian Zhuin's father, the patriarch of the Xian family, and he was even the renowned Profundity Emperor. Haha, since you've stepped foot onto the path to the Emperor realm, then you're a member of my generation. There's no need to call yourself a junior. However, since you're friends with little Jiao, there's no harm in calling me uncle. Xian Shangchen stepped forward and sized Lin Sun up. He patted Lin Sun's shoulder and said, "Not bad." As expected of the Lin Daoyuan, whose name shakes the starry sky. As he spoke, he looked at Big Yellow and said with a smile, "Big Yellow, we haven't seen each other for so many years. Why don't you take human form?" Big Yellow said disdainfully, "I've never changed my name or surname. I'm who I am. Why do I need to conceal myself with a body? Good. Everything is empty and the great Tao is true." Xian Shangchen gave a thumbs up. As he spoke, he looked at Xia Ji and said, "I presume this young lady is the legendary figure that killed a group of astral beasts by herself in Nirvana Ishvara." Xia Ji, Lin Sun introduced. Not bad at all," Xian Shangchen said with a smile. Xian Shangchen smiled. There was a strange look in his eyes. He could sense a mysterious aura from Xia Ji's body, but he did not say anything. "Come, let's talk in the hall." As Xian Shangchen spoke, he led Lin Sun and the others into the hall. After they took their seats, a group of attendants served tea, wine, and snacks, all of which were treasures rarely seen in the outside world. After exchanging greetings for a while, Xian Zhuin left with Big Yellow and Xia Ji, leaving only Xian Shangchen and Lin Sun in the hall. Xian Shangchen looked at Lin Sun and said, "I've been entrusted by someone to invite you here. There's something that they want me to pass on to you." As he spoke, he took out a bronze box from his bosom. It was 3 feet long and was imprinted with complicated Taoist seals. He handed it to Lin Sun. Lin Sun held it in his hand and looked at it. A familiar feeling welled up in his heart. He blurted out, "Did Master Lu leave this?" Xian Shangchen nodded, "Yes." Lin Sun became excited all of a sudden. "Where is he?" Xian Shangchen pointed at the bronze box and said, "This box is the clue." Lin Sun's gaze fell on the bronze box again. He saw that there were at least tens of thousands of seals on it. Moreover, so many seals were interlinked and interrelated. It could be said that a slight move in one part would affect the whole body. Even with Lin Sun's current attainments in spiritual tattoos, he still felt extremely strained. Xian Shangchen said, "Lu Boya only said that there is a treasure left by your mother in the box. As long as you can open this box within 100 years, you can go to find your mother. If you can't open it within 100 years, you must destroy this box." Lin Sun frowned. "Is this a test?" Xian Shangchen nodded. "And it's a very important test. In my opinion, there must be a reason why Lu Boya did this. It's impossible for him to deliberately make things difficult for you." Lin Sun looked at the mysterious bronze box in a daze and said, "I don't understand. Why did he set a time limit of 100 years? Could it be that if I can't open this box, something will happen?" Xian Shangchen shook his head. "This is not something I can speculate about. But in my opinion, you'd better try to open this box within 100 years. Lin Sun took a deep breath and nodded seriously. Suddenly, he realized a problem and said, "Senior, you also know Master Lu?" Xian Shangchen couldn't help laughing. If not for Lu Boya, How could I have the chance to experience the glory of the 9 levels of Green Cloud Path? After a pause, he continued, This Master Lu is not a simple person. He comes from the other side of the starry sky and controls a mysterious power that doesn't belong to this world. When I met him, he was still a young man who couldn't become an emperor. No, he couldn't even enter the Saint Realm. Lin Sun asked curiously, How did you know each other? Xian Shangchen smiled and said, The ancestor of the Xian family crossed the other side at the beginning of primitive times and hasn't returned for a long time. Lu Boya came to the Xian family with the sword of the ancestor. He said that he was being hunted and asked the Xian family to send him to a place. Where? Lin Sun couldn't help asking. The ultimate. Lin Sun suddenly realized that Master Lu must have done this to go to the ultimate ruins and meet his master, the master of the heart core. After all, his master was the only one who could scare away the master of Tongtian, Luo Tongtian. Perhaps in Master Lu's view, if he could get help from his master, he might be able to resolve the pursuit from the other side of the starry sky. The fact that Master Lu could hold the token of the ancestor of the Xian family undoubtedly proved that Master Lu and the ancestor of the Xian family had some kind of extraordinary relationship when they were on the other side of the starry sky. Otherwise, how could the ancestor of the Xian family risk offending the Luo family and give his sword to Master Lu? At this time, Lin Sun finally understood why Xian Shangchen had the opportunity to enter the heaven accessing place. At this time, Xian Shangchen couldn't help asking, Nephew, may I ask you a question? Have you opened the door to the heaven accessing place? Lin Sun nodded. There was nothing to hide. Xian Shangchen smiled bitterly and said, Sure enough, that door can only be opened by someone with the bloodline of the Luo family. No, only someone with the complete talent of devouring abyss can open it. Chapter 2304. Senior, you also know about the Luo family and the devouring abyss? Lin Sun became more curious. He had seen many old monsters over the years, but he had never seen anyone talk about the Luo family and the devouring abyss. It seemed that the Xian family was not simple. We know very little about the opposite shore of the starry sky. We only know that the former Supreme Emperor Nameless and the current Supreme Emperor Sure are from the Luo family. Xian Shangchen said in a low voice, Strictly speaking, the forbidden power of order covering the starry sky ancient path should be the Thunder Order from the opposite shore, controlled by the Luo family. As for exactly how great the resources of this clan are, even I don't know. However, nephew, you ought to have realized that the Lightning Order controlled by a clan is able to envelop the entire ancient path of stars and block the path to the other shore. From this, it's obvious how terrifying the resources of such a clan are. Lin Sun nodded. It was really incredible. When he thought that his mother, Luo Qingxuan, also came from such a mysterious clan on the opposite shore, he felt complicated. Who would dare to believe that the countless years of pursuit that his mother had suffered actually came from the clan behind her? Everything was for the heaven accessing place, for the complete devouring abyss. As for the devouring abyss, there was a trace of reminiscence in Xian Shangchen's eyes. Lu Boya once casually said that such a talent was 1 in a million in the Luo family of the opposite shore, and it was extremely difficult to find one in thousands of years. The Luo family is bound to have a lot of clansmen, but only the direct descendants have the opportunity to awaken such a talent. Of course, it's just a chance. Speaking of this, Xian Shangchen looked at Lin Sun and said, Now, you should understand how rare the devouring abyss talent is, right? Lin Sun frowned and said in confusion, But when I was young, when I was cultivating in the Xiao Empire in the lower world, many people seemed to have heard of this talent. Xian Shangchen thought for a while and smiled. Nephew, can't you guess the reason? This news must have been released by the enemies who are chasing after your mother to let people know about the devouring abyss innate skill. Moreover, so long as this sort of natural talent appears, it will surely be spread out at the first possible moment. In this way, those enemies will surely know at the first possible moment exactly who has awakened this natural talent. Perhaps they'll be able to follow the clues and capture your mother and Lu Boya. Otherwise, how could Xian Shangchen become the head of the Xian family? Lin Sun was suddenly enlightened by Xian Shangchen's words, but he also realized a problem at the same time. Back then, wasn't the reason why the Lin family's massacre broke out because the news that he possessed the devouring abyss talent had spread? Both Yun Qinbai and Ba Qi, who was disguised as a quasi-emperor, were merely pawns. The real threat to Luo Qingxuan and Master Lu was the taboo order force above Xiao Empire. Having figured it all out, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. How many dangers had his mother and Master Lu gone through in the past years? Since the Nirvana Luo family was so crazy about all this, did it mean that the heaven-accessing secret realm and the complete devouring abyss talent were extremely valuable? In the end, Lin Sun put away the bronze box and said, "Thank you for giving this to me. I will never forget your kindness." Xian Shangchen stood up and said, "My dear nephew, you've encountered some obstacles during your visit to the Xian family. I should be the one to apologize." Lin Sun hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "How can I not understand what those seniors are thinking? They are just worried that I, Lin Daoyuan, will be targeted by Shi Tiandi when I come as a guest. This kind of worry is reasonable. No, I'm the one who invited you here. How can I let you suffer such grievances?" Xian Shangchen shook his head and said, "Well, I can make an exception and let you enter the mirror of Xinxian to cultivate for a period of time." As he said this, he winked at Lin Sun and said, "This is the foundation of the Xian family. Ordinary disciples of the family are only qualified to enter when they become emperors, not to mention outsiders. Of course, it must be beneficial for a peerless emperor like you." Lin Sun was stunned. How could there be such a good thing? "Let's go. I'll take you there." Xian Shangchen was about to lead Lin Sun out of the hall. "Senior, please wait a moment." As Lin Sun spoke, he took out the letter from Zhong Qiu and handed it over. "Zhong Qiu asked me to give this to you before I came here." Xian Shangchen was startled. He opened the letter and chuckled. "Zhong Qiu is such a proud person. I didn't expect him to remember the favor I owed him all those years ago." As for what kind of favor Lin Sun owed, Xian Shangchen didn't say, but he already understood that Lin Sun came to the Xian family with a request. He said, "Nephew, you might not know this, but after the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering was held a few years ago, the path leading to the true dragon world was sealed, and it was completely cut off from the outside world. Rumor has it that something big happened during the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering." Lin Sun's eyes narrowed. Back in the ancient Desolation Realm, Zhao Jingxian had gone to the world of True Dragon to participate in the gathering of dragons and immortals. However, according to Xian Shangchen, something unexpected had happened during the gathering of the bloodline of True Dragon. This made Lin Sun's heart tighten. "If you really want to go, it's not impossible," Xian Shangchen said. Xian Shangchen said, "However, it will take some effort. How about this, I'll bring you to the world within the mysterious God Mirror to cultivate first. When you come out, I guarantee that I'll settle this matter for you." Lin Sun took a deep breath and bowed seriously, "Thank you for your help." Xian Shangchen patted him on the shoulder with a smile and said, "In the future, the starry ancient path is destined to be dominated by influential figures like you. If you really want to thank me, help me take care of Xiaojiu if there's a chance in the future." Lin Sun nodded. "What? I haven't been to the mirror of Xinxian to cultivate." Outside the hall, Xian Juyin screamed in disbelief. "Father, I'm starting to doubt whether I'm your biological son or not." Slap. Xian Shangchen slapped the back of Xian Juyin's head and scolded him with a smile. "When you can break through the realm and become a great emperor, the door of the mirror of Xinxian will always be open for you." Xian Juyin curled his lips and said angrily, "You're goading me again. Can't you change the trick next time?" As he spoke, He quickly sent a voice transmission to Lin Sun. Brother Lin, the mirror of Xinxian is divided into 36 levels. The higher you go, the greater the benefits you will obtain. This is a rare opportunity, so don't waste it. Since the ancient times, there have been many peerless and ruthless people in the Xian family. Most of them gained great benefits from the mirror of Xinxian. Lin Sun realized that this opportunity was obviously more precious than he had imagined. Xian Shangchen glanced at Xian Juyin. Obviously, he had guessed what Lin Sun had said, but he was happy to see it happen. If his son could become close friends with someone like Lin Sun, even if he had no future prospects, he could at least live a carefree life. Can I come with you? Big Yellow's eyes lit up. Obviously, he knew the benefits of entering the mirror of Xinxian. After all, it was a chaos treasure, the origin of the Xian family. The opportunity was too rare. No! Xian Shangchen refused flatly. Big Yellow was angered to the point of grinding his teeth, but he had no other choice. This was the Xian family. Even though he was arrogant, he wasn't arrogant to the point of acting atrociously in the Xian family. Wait for me. Lin Sun looked at Xie Ji. Xie Ji answered naturally, as if it was a matter of course to obey Lin's words. Let's go. When he saw this, Xian Shangchen didn't delay any longer, and he swiftly vanished with Lin Sun. In merely an instant, an enormous mysterious door that was condensed from a chaotic rain of light appeared in Lin Sun's field of vision. When they arrived here, Xian Shangchen said, Young friend, the world formed by the mirror of Xinxian is behind this door, and it's called the mysterious world. Moreover, there are 36 levels within it, and they're completely formed by the chaotic source of the ancient path. No matter if it's comprehending the great Tao or tempering one's cultivation within it, you'll be able to obtain unexpected benefits. This time, I've helped you gain a month of time. Even though the time is short, but such an opportunity is unique in the entire world. Don't waste it. As he spoke, Xian Shangchen flicked his sleeve, and a green jade token floated up into appearance before he passed it to Lin Sun. Take this token and you'll be able to enter. Thank you, Senior. Lin Sun immediately took action, and his figure instantly vanished within the vortex formed from chaos. Not long after he left, there was a wave of fluctuation in the sky, and then a silver-haired old man appeared. When he saw the surging vortex door gradually close, the silver-haired old man instantly became anxious. Patriarch, since the primeval times until now, our Xian clan's mysterious world has never allowed outsiders to enter. Even if it's within the clan, one has to pass through layer upon layer of screening and numerous tests in order to enter to cultivate. You? How could you? Xian Shangchen let out a long sigh and said, Alas, third uncle, if you'd arrived a step earlier, you would have been able to prevent all of this from happening. Now even I have no other choice. The silver-haired old man was angered to the point his nose became crooked. You're acting first and reporting later. No, I originally intended to act first and not report. Xian Shangchen spoke in all seriousness, yet in the end, he couldn't help but laugh first, and he seemed to be extremely complacent. If old men like you knew, then even if this kid was able to enter in the end, it would definitely not be so smooth. There was no other choice, so I could only resort to this. If Lin Sun was here, he would definitely discover that Xian Shangchen, the most ferocious emperor in the starry skies, had a startling resemblance to Xian Juyin. Of course, the son took after the father. Whoosh, there was another wave of fluctuation in the sky, and one after another, the Xian clan elders appeared. When they found out that Lin Sun had entered the mysterious world, their faces all darkened, and some of them even flew into a rage. This was the core of the Xian clan, and it was the foundation of their Xian clan's strength. Since ancient times, no outsider had ever entered this place. They could allow Lin Sun to come as a guest, but they had never allowed a guest to come to such an extent. Chapter 2305. The Xian family elders were furious. They pointed at Xian Shangchen with trembling fingers and scolded, "Shangchen, you were very mischievous when you were young. Why are you still so mischievous now that you're the patriarch? Do you really think we can't do anything to you? This is outrageous." An old monster was so angry that he almost kicked Xian Shangchen. Xian Shangchen listened with a smile on his face. He remained calm and collected. When the Xian family elders were tired of scolding him, he said, "Uncles and elders, using a chance to enter the mysterious world in exchange for the friendship of a future immortal sovereign, it's not a loss, right?" The Xian family elders were stunned, their expressions uncertain. "But you shouldn't have told us," someone said angrily. Xian Shangchen's face was full of shame. He bowed to the surroundings and said, "Thank you, uncles. No matter what decision I make next time, I will listen to your teachings and pointers first. I promise I won't make such a huge mistake again." The Xian family elders looked at each other and felt a headache. Xian Shangchen was a pain in the neck. He could anger people to death, but they couldn't do anything to him. "Forget it, we don't need to be angry about this. What's done is done, and it's already too late," an old man of virtue and prestige said. "Moreover, it's not necessarily a bad thing for the patriarch to do this. That Lin Daoyuan is indeed worthy of our Xian clan's high regard. As the saying goes, a person doesn't recognize a cloud-soaring tree at the moment, and only when it reaches the clouds will the Tao begin to rise. Since we've already seen that this kid is a cloud-soaring tree, we shouldn't wait until this cloud-soaring tree reaches the clouds before befriending him." Xian Shangchen nodded fiercely. "Uncle is right. It's easy to add flowers to a brocade, but it's hard to provide timely help." Someone frowned. "I just want to ask, if our Xian family really has to go to war with Emperor Shitiandi because of this kid, will you all agree?" After a short silence, the Xian family elders tacitly agreed. They didn't have any friendship with Lin Sun, but they were purely considering the interests of the clan. They were extremely tempted by Lin Sun's friendship. Fang Xiuwen's successor, possessing the inheritance of Tai Xian, Wu Yang, and Sky Punisher, 3 legendary great emperors, a peak great emperor, and an immortal sovereign, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that so long as such a young man didn't suffer a mishap and perish, then he would sooner or later reign supreme in the world and reign supreme in the emperor realm. Now that there was such an opportunity to form a good relationship with Lin Sun, these old men of Xian family were extremely tempted. However, they were hesitant because they were afraid of Shitiandi. Someone asked, "Patriarch, I'm afraid we've already made Lin Daoyuan unhappy by sending people to obstruct him earlier. Under such circumstances, can our Xian clan still?" Without waiting for him to finish, Xian Shangchen said solemnly, "Second uncle, you've hit the nail on the head. Why should I send this child into the profound God world? Isn't it because I want to apologize on your behalf?" The Xian clan's elders all nodded. After they calmed down, they realized that Xian Shangchen's actions were rather wise. Seeing that their expressions had softened, Xian Shangchen struck while the iron was hot. "But this is not enough." "Not enough?" The Xian clan's elders were stunned. They almost couldn't believe their ears. Since the beginning of time, Lin Daoyuan was the first outsider to enter the profound God world. Such a sincere compensation was still not enough? Xian Shangchen patiently explained, "Everyone, although the profound God world is our Xian clan's most precious land, with this child's potential, even if he doesn't use the profound God world to cultivate, how much of an impact do you think it will have on him?" The Xian clan's elders all fell silent. The path of a peak-level great emperor who possessed many inheritances and was an immortal sovereign was indeed not something that a profound God world could influence. You've said so much, so stop hiding it. Tell me, what other benefits do you want to give that kid?" The elder of virtue and prestige glared at Xian Shangchen. How could he not understand this patriarch's character? After beating around the bush for so long, Xian Shangchen was merely laying the groundwork. "Eldest uncle understands me well." Xian Shangchen raised his thumb and flattered the patriarch. Then, with a serious expression, he said, "Uncles, all of you know that I owed the second successor of Fangtsuan Mountains, Zhong Qiu, a huge favor." As he spoke, he revealed Lin Sun's purpose for coming here. He even specifically pointed out that Lin Sun was heading to the true dragon world to kill a woman who had connections with Emperor Shi Tiandi. Immediately, the Xian clan's elders were moved. Zhong Qiu wants to start a war with Emperor Shi Tiandi? Someone was shocked. This was indeed earth-shattering news. The Xian clan's elders could not remain calm. That should be the case. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent Lin Sun to do this. Xian Shangchen's gaze deepened as he said, "Therefore, whether it's to repay the favor or to kill Emperor Shi Tiandi, how can our Xian clan stand by and watch Lin Sun head to the true dragon world? Yes, we must help." Someone couldn't help but nod. The other old monsters looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. They looked at Xian Shangchen and said, "So that's what the patriarch is planning." Xian Shangchen also laughed. "I'm doing this for our Xian clan." For the Xian clan. The Xian clan's elders nodded in satisfaction. "We agree to this. Isn't it just going to the true dragon world? Although the path there has been sealed, it's not a big deal. We can just use the mysterious God Mirror and open up a path to the true dragon world. I have to say, all of you are wise." Xian Shangchen smiled as he flattered the Xian clan's elders. He heaved a long sigh of relief. He knew very well how stubborn these Xian clan's elders were. It wasn't easy to convince them this time. We have to think about this carefully. There are some old bastards in the true dragon world. If we open up a path to their nest, they will definitely be unhappy. Yes, why don't we bring out our Xian clan's treasure? At least we can intimidate those arrogant and overbearing old dragons. We can't. We are only sending our young friend Lin Daoyuan to the true dragon world. If we do that, we will be rejected by those old dragons. It will be disadvantageous to him. I feel that. These Xian clan's elders were furious just a moment ago, yet they'd actually started to discuss how to help Lin Sun head to the true dragon world now. Xian Shangchen grinned as he watched and didn't say anything. Everyone in the world knew that he, Profundity Emperor Xian Shangchen, was the most ferocious expert in the Emperor realm. But who knew that in the Xian clan, he'd always convinced others with his wisdom. The mysterious god world. Bang! Roiling chaotic chi roiled and suffused the surroundings like numerous dragons that surged through the heavens and the earth, and the quintessence aura they emanated was thick and pure to the point it caused one's heart to tremble. Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp as soon as he arrived. This expanse of the heavens and the earth was actually completely formed from the quintessence of chaos. Being within it was like returning to the mother of the great Tao and arriving at the natural chaos. His body and mind were bathed in the miraculous energy of the great Tao that was like a vast ocean. At this instant, the vital energy in Lin Sun's body was lively as if it was cheering. It greedily and madly swallowed the omnipresent quintessence aura of chaos. His entire body seemed as if it was soaking in an immortal spring, causing him to float as if he was about to ascend to heaven. It was also at this moment that Lin Sun realized how miraculous the mysterious god world was. No wonder it was regarded as the origin of the ancient imperial clan, the Xian clan. Lin Sun forcefully resisted the urge to immediately sit down and cultivate, and he soared into the sky and flashed upwards. The mysterious god world was divided into 36 levels, and the higher one went, the greater the benefits one would obtain. Bang! As he charged upwards, Lin Sun instantly felt a wave of pressure descend upon him. This wasn't a pressure that came from the order of the heavens and the earth, and it was entirely produced by the energy of the quintessence of chaos. It was like a peerless medicinal pill that merely emitted an aura that possessed a terrifying oppressive force. This was undoubtedly unbelievable, and it caused Lin Sun to look forward to it even more. His figure charged straight up, and in the blink of an eye, he'd arrived above the sky. After he arrived here, Lin Sun raised his eyes and saw that there was actually another layer of sky above him. Obviously, he'd already arrived at the second level of the mysterious God world. The energy of the quintessence of chaos here had obviously become denser, and it enveloped the sky like a large mist. Every breath he took was filled with extremely pure energy. This caused Lin Sun to not dare imagine what sort of miraculous place was above the 36 levels of heaven. Without hesitation, he once again charged forward. The third level of heaven, the fourth level of heaven, the fifth level of heaven. Lin Sun's figure did not slow down at all, and he soared all the way across the mysterious and extraordinary heaven and earth. During this process, the pressure he felt as he charged forward was getting stronger and stronger, and it was getting more and more turbulent. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if someone below the Emperor realm were to enter the mysterious God world, it would be absolutely difficult to move an inch. It wasn't that this place was dangerous, but that the energy of the quintessence of chaos contained here was too majestic and powerful. This was like an ordinary person trying to swallow an Emperor realm treasure. Just the aura alone was enough to make one unable to approach it, let alone swallow it into one's body. No wonder in the Xian family, one has to go through layers upon layers of screening and tests, and only after breaking through to the Emperor realm are one qualified to enter the mysterious God world. This place really isn't a place that just anyone can come to. Along the way, Lin Sun was also filled with emotion and amazement. When he reached the 10th level of the mysterious God world, Lin Sun judged that without the power of the third level of the Emperor realm, one would not be able to move forward after reaching this place. As for Lin Sun, the pressure he had to bear began to increase. When he reached the 15th level of the mysterious God world, Lin Sun had no choice but to circulate his cultivation in order to counteract and dispel the terrifying pressure of the quintessence of chaos. When he reached the 20th level of the mysterious God world, under the pressure of the quintessence of chaos, Lin Sun had to circulate all the power in his body. The speed at which he was moving forward also began to slow down. However, this was still not his limit. Of course, if he really could not hold on any longer, Lin Sun would definitely not force himself. This was a blessed land for cultivation, not for fighting and killing. If he were to charge forward with injuries, even if he could reach a higher place, how would he be able to concentrate on cultivation? Chapter 2306. Chaos filled the air, and the higher he went, the more terrifying the pressure became. Finally, Lin Sun stopped at the 27th level of heaven. In this world, the power of chaos turned into the shape of beasts and birds, flying between heaven and earth. There were also all kinds of divine flowers of the great path, flowing and diffusing like a waterfall of divine light rain. The auspicious rain was like a raging wave, submerging every inch of the void. This scene was too shocking. If word got out, the world would probably not believe that there was such a magical place in the world. Even the old monsters of the Emperor realm would go crazy for it. At this moment, Lin Sun felt extremely strenuous, but it was not enough to injure him. He let out a long breath and sat cross-legged in meditation. Boom! Suddenly, his body seemed to have turned into a giant abyss, spinning madly, producing a terrifying aura that could swallow the sky. The aura of chaos gathered in his body from all directions, producing a rumbling sound. Soon, his figure was submerged in the thick power of chaos. How to describe this feeling? It was like a desert that had been dry for a long time was covered by a downpour, a long drought met with a good rain. Lin Sun felt so comfortable that he almost moaned. The cultivation of the Emperor realm required the support of an enormous amount of cultivation resources. For a peerless emperor like Lin Sun, because of his strong foundation, the cultivation resources he needed could be said to be terrifying. Most emperors would only need to refine an entire lake for one round of cultivation. But Lin Sun needed a vast ocean to cultivate once. Looking at the ancient path of the starry sky, Although there were many famous mountains and blessed lands, only the top cultivation holy lands could satisfy Lin Sun's cultivation. For example, the place where the 6 Tao courts were located. This was also one of the reasons why it was so difficult for an Emperor Realm practitioner to break through to higher realms. In the starry sky, the blessed lands that could satisfy the Emperor Realm practitioner's cultivation were limited. Some clans and forces exhausted all their resources and could at most satisfy the cultivation needs of an Emperor Realm practitioner. But in the mysterious world, it was completely different. The higher he went, the thicker and more vigorous the power of chaos. Just like now, Lin Sun could not help but sigh. If he continued to cultivate here, why would he worry about not being able to break through? Boom! The heavens and the earth rumbled as chaotic chi surged over. Lin Sun's body was like a bottomless abyss that swallowed the chaotic chi in a greedy and crazy manner. Within his body, the vast imperial life world was also operating, refining the origin energy of chaos at a speed visible to the naked eye. Along with the passage of time, his imperial life world grew even more solid and dazzling, brilliant and boundlessly gorgeous. At the same time, Lin Sun was able to sense that the quintessence energy of chaos was branded with the purest laws of the Grand Tao, and it allowed him to practically directly comprehend and refine the laws of the Grand Tao and temper it into his own energy of the Grand Tao. This was the profound God world. Lin Sun couldn't help but feel shocked. There was indeed a reason why the Xian family could survive from the immemorial era until now. In addition, Lin Sun's 5 doppelgangers were trying their best to comprehend various Taoist scriptures. In the past, he had yet to become a martial emperor. Even if he could comprehend the power of the inheritance, it was limited to below the martial emperor realm. However, it was different now. He was already a peak great emperor and could comprehend and control the parts of the emperor realm recorded in the Tao scripture. Lin Sun's objective was very clear, and it was to comprehend and master the various inheritances he possessed. Thus, he would condense them into his own imperial scripture. This was his Tao. It contained all the Taos in the world, and it was derived from all techniques since ancient times. 10 days later, bang! A world-shaking rumble resounded. With Lin Sun at the center, the quintessence energy of chaos in the surroundings was instantly devoured completely without leaving a single drop behind. On the other hand, Lin Sun seemed as if he'd broken a shackle, and his aura suddenly rose like an erupting volcano. The glow of the Tao interweaved with the rain, and it caused his figure to seem like a sun that tore through the sky and illuminated the world. It was so dazzling and resplendent. In his sea of consciousness, the Dharma idol that had transformed into a furnace rumbled while various Tao markings and diagrams flew out from the furnace, and they were mysterious and profound. They were the Emperor Tao laws branded within his soul, and they seemed material and revealed a grand scene. In his body, the imperial life world was tumbling, constantly expanding and extending. If it was a small world before, it was like a big world at this moment. In the world, the sky, earth, latitude, sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, grass, and trees were all covered with a layer of brilliant Tao light, which was condensed by the purest Emperor Tao and evolved into all phenomena in the world. And Lin Sun's physique had also obtained a new kind of improvement. His body seemed to be formed by immortal jade, and it contained natural Tao. His bones were snow white, and his tendons and veins were brilliant, like pieces of divine gold liquid. As Lin Sun's chi ran, it produced a clanging sound. On the other hand, his internal organs and the acupoints throughout his body were filled with peerlessly copious vitality and the glow of the Tao. Even his strands of hair emanated a hazy glow of the Tao that was jet black and shiny, and ordinary divine weapons were unable to slash it apart. It was no exaggeration to say that a drop of Lin Sun's blood at this time could be regarded as a supreme precious medicine for ordinary practitioners, which had the power to bring the dead back to life. After a long time, Lin Sun's surging aura finally stabilized, and all the strange phenomena vanished along with it. At this moment, he was a second-level Emperor realm existence, and he had attained the formless realm. There were 9 levels in the Emperor realm, and each level was a natural chasm. The first level of the Emperor realm, the unattached realm, didn't rigidly adhere to the Tao. You were bound by the Dharma, and when you reached the limit, you would have to be unattached. The second level of the Emperor realm, the formless realm, took the meaning of the great way of formless. When one attained this realm, his body and mind seemed to be in harmony with the great way of heaven and earth, and every move he made was accompanied by the Dharma. It was shapeless, so it was called formless. To put it simply, when one attained this realm, even if an Emperor realm expert stood in a bustling street, those ordinary people and even ordinary practitioners would be utterly unable to detect his existence. This wasn't a secret method to conceal one's aura and whereabouts, but a kind of Great Way realm. The Great Way is shapeless, yet omnipresent, and I can also be shapeless, yet omnipresent. Of course, in the eyes of an Emperor realm expert, this formless realm was merely a kind of realm, and it wasn't really formless. After all, the Great Way was shapeless, yet traceable, and could be comprehended and controlled by all beings in the world. It was the same for the second level of the Emperor realm. For Lin Sun, attaining this realm made him keenly aware that his strength had undergone an earth-shaking transformation, which was far beyond the first level of the Emperor realm. The most obvious change was that in the place of his mind, there was a kind of dazzling and translucent heart light. The heart light illuminated the body of an emperor, and all Daos were within reach. This was the manifestation of the state of mind after attaining the second level of the Emperor realm. The body was shapeless, and the heart light gathered, allowing one to perceive the mysteries of all things. In other words, with the heart light, one could more easily perceive the rules of the Great Way and the power of order between heaven and earth. When one reached the third level of the Emperor realm, he would encounter the Emperor's heart barrier, which was related to the heart light. After a long time, Lin Sun's eyes showed a trace of strangeness. It's only been 3 months since I became an Emperor realm, and I've made another breakthrough. If those old monsters in the starry sky knew about it, I wonder what they would think. Yes, in less than 3 months, Lin Sun once again crossed the first level of the Emperor realm and became a second level of the Emperor realm. Such a shocking speed of advancement would make those old monsters who hadn't been able to take a step forward for thousands of years die of anger. It should be known that the 9 levels of the Emperor realm were like a natural moat. To take a step forward was no different from ascending to the sky. Some old monsters of the first level of the Emperor realm were even stuck at this level for thousands of years without being able to break through. Such a comparison showed how fast Lin Sun was breaking through the realms. Of course, the existence of the mysterious world played a crucial role. This world was the origin of the Xian family, and it was a unique treasure land in the world. Lin Sun was the first Emperor realm figure to enter the mysterious world as an outsider, and he cultivated in the 27th level of the Emperor realm. 10 days of cultivation was equivalent to 100 years of hard work in the outside world. 1 day later, after Lin Sun completely stabilized his cultivation of the second level of the Emperor realm, he stood up and went straight to a higher level. There was only 1 month left, and now there were less than 20 days left. Lin Sun didn't want to waste such a precious opportunity. The 27th level of the Emperor realm was certainly enough for his cultivation, but it wasn't the limit. 15 minutes later, Lin Sun reached the 29th level. 30 minutes later, Lin Sun reached the 33rd level and stopped there. The reason was simple. After reaching the 30th level, the pressure from the chaotic source suddenly became several times stronger. It was far stronger than before. Lin Sun used all his strength to reach the 33rd level. Not bad, the chaotic source here is almost solid, as thick as water. Even the laws of the Great Path are complete, pure, and complete. After a brief comprehension, Lin soon revealed a satisfied smile. Without hesitation, he sat down cross-legged and began to meditate. Rumble! Like a tsunami, the chaos origin power instantly engulfed his figure. What? Not only did this kid break through to the second level of the Emperor realm, he even rushed to the 33rd level of the mysterious world? In the outside world, when Xian Shangchen announced this news, the elders of the Xian family, who had been paying attention to Lin Sun, couldn't remain calm. The mysterious world was the ancestral ground of the Xian family. They naturally knew the secrets of the 36 levels of the mysterious world better than anyone else. Strictly speaking, those at the first level of the Emperor realm could only cultivate in the first 5 levels. Those at the second level of the Emperor realm could cultivate in the first 10 levels. So on and so forth, with each level of the Emperor realm, one could cultivate in the higher 5 levels of the mysterious world. Above the 30th level, only those at the 7th level of the Emperor realm and above could cultivate. And the 33rd level that Lin Sun was at right now was a level that even an average 7th level of the Emperor realm could not enter. This was why the elders of the Xian family were in disbelief. It wasn't just them. When Xian Shangchen sensed this through the power of the mysterious God Mirror, he was speechless. He couldn't help but feel jealous. Chapter 2307. Xian Shangchen might not be the strongest among all the martial emperors in the universe, but he was definitely the most ferocious. He was also the clan leader of the Xian family and had a dazzling halo that everyone admired and admired. However, it was this ferocious martial emperor, who had proven himself in the Archean era, who was jealous of Lin Sun at that moment. One could imagine how shocked and surprised he was that Lin Sun was cultivating in the 33rd heaven of the Shenxian mountain. Therefore, when he saw the dumbfounded expressions of the Xian family elders, Xian Shangchen instantly laughed. They were all the same, so no one would laugh at the other. Does this mean that this lad's combat power can fight against a 7th-level martial emperor? Someone's heart trembled. This conclusion was so shocking that no one would believe it if it was spread out. Back when he was still at the first level of Emperor Realm, he could already kill a 6th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. He even gained the approval of a peerless sword emperor like Kai and I. Now that he is at the 2nd level of Emperor Realm, his combat power is naturally completely different from before. Someone sighed with emotion. The only thing I find strange is that in the primordial era, there were many great emperors who roamed the world. Their brilliance illuminated the river of time. However, those great emperors were not as monstrous as this kid. Then, many people looked at Xian Shangchen. In the entire Xian family, Xian Shangchen had another identity, and that was Great Emperor Ju Yu. Otherwise, he would not have been able to stand out and wield the supreme power of the clan leader. Xian Shangchen's lips twitched, and he said angrily, "Do you really want me to admit that I am inferior to this lad in terms of Ju Yu?" After a pause, he sighed helplessly. "All right, I admit that this lad is not an ordinary monster. Back then, I was not as strong." The Xian family elders had complicated expressions. The strongest person in the Xian family actually admitted that he was inferior to Lin Daoyuan when he was a 1st or 2nd level martial emperor. This fact was too much of a blow to them. However, it was precisely because of this that these old fellows from the Xian clan had a deeper understanding that it was indeed a good and wise decision to welcome Lin Sun. Let's go and continue to think about going to the true dragon world. At least we must settle this matter before this lad walks out of the Shenxian mountain. One of the antiques waved his hand and led the other elders of the Xian family to continue discussing the matter of opening a tunnel to the true dragon world. Xian Shangchen was amused. Obviously, the attitude of these old guys had completely changed. They had begun to accept and maintain the relationship with Lin Sun. This was, of course, a good thing. Time flew by. On the 33rd level of Shenxian Ridge, Lin Sun was immersed in cultivation. As for his 5 great Taoist bodies, They were respectively comprehending the Taishan Sword Sutra, No Return, Sky Destroyer Sword Sutra, Great Fuyao Sword Sutra, and Instant Tao-Severing Sword. Among them, the Great Fuyao Sword Scripture was left behind by 15th Senior Brother Qing Ting, while the Instant Tao-Severing Sword was left behind by Jun Huan. As he had too many inheritances, it wouldn't be easy to integrate them. Lin Sun planned to categorize them first and then integrate the Sword Tao Imperial Scriptures he had obtained. As for inheritances like the Boundless Devouring Scripture, Golden Court Tao Scripture, Azure Lotus Abode, and so on and so forth, they could be divided into different categories to be fused together. The sages created the techniques, the emperors wrote the scriptures. The path of the Emperor Realm was actually the process of condensing one's cultivation into a complete Taoist scripture. Soon, there was only one day left before Lin Sun left the Shenxian Ridge. Whoosh, on this day, he woke up from meditation. His eyes were deep, and there seemed to be a big abyss surging in his pupils, reflecting the stars, the sun, the moon, and all the phenomena in the sky. Up to now, Lin Sun had completely consolidated the second level of the Emperor Realm and made great progress. He was not far from the consummation. If I have another month, I should be able to try to break through the third level of the Emperor Realm. Lin Sun was a little unsatisfied, but he also knew that this time's cultivation in the Shenxian Ridge was about to end. It was already very rare for the Xian family to let him cultivate here for a month. When Lin Sun experienced the insights of the 5 great doppelgangers, countless wonderful insights suddenly surged into his heart like a tide. For a time, in his mind, there seemed to be 5 supreme sword Tao wantonly deducing. The Taishan sword Qi turned into 840 million, like the sand in the Ganges River, covering the boundless void, deducing infinite changes. No return. A sword cut through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, tearing apart the eternal night. Drawing sword Tao, commanding sword Tao, heart sword Tao suddenly appeared, flashing like flowing light, splitting the blue sky, splitting the road of life and death. There was a sword rising, crushing the sky, collapsing the 5 elements, wandering around the void, cutting down the endless stars. There was also a flash of sword Qi, like the epiphyllum, in an instant, showing endless wind. The mystery of the 5 complete supreme sword scriptures all emerged in Lin Sun's mind. At the same time, the 5 mysterious patterns emerged on the Dharma form of the furnace in his sea of consciousness. These 5 patterns represented the 5 complete supreme sword scriptures that Lin Sun had mastered at present, namely Taishan Sword Scripture, No Return, Sky-Destroying Sword Scripture, Fuyao Sword Scripture, and Momentary Tao-Cutting Sword. Lin Sun realized that when he integrated these 5 supreme sword scriptures, at least in terms of sword Tao, all of them would belong to him and be imprinted in his Great Way Furnace scripture. However, he was even more clearly aware that it was bound to not be easy to master these 5 completely different yet supreme sword scriptures and completely transform them into his own sword scriptures. After all, each scripture was the lifetime effort of a peerless sword emperor, which could be called the pinnacle of sword Tao. How could it be integrated casually? However, Lin Sun was not in a hurry. He had been an emperor for less than half a year, and there was still a long way to go. Sooner or later, he would be able to integrate these 5 supreme sword scriptures into one. Next, Lin Sun let Greenwood Taoist body continue to meditate on these 5 supreme sword scriptures and try to integrate them. As for other Taoist bodies, they began to meditate on other Taoist scriptures. The next step is to choose a suitable life monarch weapon. Lin Sun had been struggling to choose a emperor weapon that could match his cultivation. Saber, spear, sword, halberd? Axe, hook, fork? Or pagoda, Taoist seal, or Taoist bell. It seemed that none of them satisfied him the most. Lin Sun shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Now he was not short of treasures. It was not too late to make a decision after thinking it through. At this moment, a jade tablet that he carried with him fluctuated. This meant that his cultivation in the profound God world would end today. A month's transformation is equivalent to 100 years' work in the outside world. Lin Sun stood up and looked at the world filled with chaotic qi. Suddenly, he thought that Buzhou Mountain, which was taken away by his senior brothers and sisters, was also a chaotic treasure. Based on this, would Mount Buzhou be able to develop such an incomparably miraculous place of cultivation like the Book of Divinity Treasures? As he was thinking, the jade token at Lin Sun's waist broke into pieces and turned into a teleportation force, which took him away and disappeared. Monk, as long as you recognize me as your elder brother, I promise you will have the opportunity to enter the mysterious world of Xian family to cultivate. In a hall, Xian Juyin touched Ling Kezi's smooth forehead with a smile. It felt really smooth. Ling Kezi said with a silly smile, "Elder brother, this is what you said?" Obviously, this monk was not stupid. He directly followed Xian Juyin and called him elder brother. Xian Juyin laughed and said, "Well, I recognize you as my good brother. In the future, when I have meat to eat, I will definitely give you soup to drink." Ling Kezi said seriously, "I am a monk. I don't want meat soup. I just want to cultivate in the mysterious world once. This is what you promised. You can't go back on your word." He deliberately emphasized the word, elder brother. Xian Juyin said disdainfully, "It's not a big deal. When my father abdicates, I will be the head of Xian family. At that time, we will move into the mysterious world. Let's see who dares to complain." As he spoke, he looked at Jintian Xianyue and said with a smile, "Miss Xianyue, I know who you admire. So long as you recognize me as your elder brother, I guarantee that I will do everything in my power to help you pursue that fellow you admire." Jintian Xuanyue's clothes were whiter than snow, and her black hair was like a waterfall. She sat there like a celestial maiden that walked out from a painting, beautiful to the point of being untainted by the world. Hearing this, her fair and beautiful face blushed, and she reprimanded, "You should mind your own business. You still want to be the head of Xian family? Are you cursing your father's position that he won't be able to hold on for long? Haha, isn't it only right and proper for a son to inherit his father's position? Not to mention he can't shamelessly hold on to the position of patriarch and refuse to let go, right? That would be too shameless. There are so many clansmen in the Xian family, so how could they possibly agree?" Xian Juyin was beaming with joy as he spoke when the back of his head was slapped fiercely, and he staggered and almost fell. "You brat, who are you calling shameless? I'm not afraid to tell you that the position of patriarch will be yours when you defeat me." Xian Shangchen walked in from outside the hall, and Lin Sun and Xia Ji were with him. Xian Juyin grimaced in pain and rubbed the back of his head. He was about to argue with his father, but when he saw Lin Sun, he immediately cried out, "Why do I feel that this guy seems to have disappeared?" Ling Kezi and Jintian Xianyue nodded in unison. In their vision, Lin Sun was clearly there, but they couldn't sense him at all with their consciousness. Xian Shangchen said, "This is the second level of Emperor Realm. The body is one with heaven and earth, and the Great Way is invisible." Xian Juyin, Jintian Xianyue, and Ling Kezi immediately fell silent, and they felt like they were about to collapse from the shock. They hadn't become Emperor Realm, but Lin Sun had reached the second level of Emperor Realm, and he was even an ultimate Emperor Realm. Xian Shangchen said with a complicated expression, "Now you know how powerful he is. In the past, you were of the same generation, but now the gap between you is getting bigger and bigger. If you don't work hard, the gap will only get bigger in the future. Sooner or later, you will be left far behind and you will no longer be able to walk shoulder to shoulder on the Great Way." The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener did.